Quick disclaimer, this is an AI voice, which is not going to be perfect. There is a transcript in the description as well as subtitles for you to read along with. UK Politics explores the nature of politics and how people engage in the political process in the UK. This component covers the emergence and development of the UK's democratic system, the role and scope of political parties, as well as how electoral systems in the UK operate and how individuals and groups are influenced in their voting behaviour. There are three core political ideas, each with their own principles, divisions, and key thinkers. There are many ways democracy can work and factors that can affect democracy. There are also many ways people can participate in politics and factors that affect their participation. Democracy is power exercised by mass of the people. There are two types of democracy, which are direct democracy and representative democracy. Direct democracy is where citizens speak and vote on all issues with the majority view becoming law. The advantages of direct democracy are that everyone in society participates and people directly make decisions in their interest. As well as this, all citizens' voices are heard and it is the purest form of democracy. However, a disadvantage of direct democracy is that it is impractical as it requires all citizens to be involved in decision-making on a daily basis. As well as this, people may not want to make decisions on a daily basis and they will be likely to vote in their own interest and not in the interest of society. In addition, minority voices will not be heard, which will result in tyranny of the majority. An example of a direct democracy is the Athenian democracy, where citizens would meet regularly and vote on a decision, with the majority vote being final. Representative democracy is where citizens elect a representative to make decisions on their behalf. The features of representative democracy are that the election of representatives should be regular, competitive, and secret, and carried out without force and with universal adult suffrage. As well as this, civil liberties must be protected and elections must have multiple political parties running. In addition, there should be constitutional checks to prevent a concentration of government power, and there should be an independent judiciary. The advantages of representative democracy are that professional politicians make complex decisions and the minority views are considered and upheld. As well as this, elected politicians are held to account by the people and it is the most practical form of democracy. However, the disadvantages of representative democracy are that citizens are disengaged from politics and politicians may lack independence as they are part of a party. As well as this, politicians may avoid being held accountable and they are open to corruption and self-interest. The UK is a representative democracy where the citizens elect a representative to sit in Parliament and make decisions on their behalf. The UK is also a pluralist democracy where the government makes decisions based on conflicting ideas and arguments. One similarity between direct and representative democracy is that citizens participate in both and they both have legitimacy, which is the rightful use of power based on rules and agreements. As well as this, both uphold the rule of law and protect individual rights and freedoms. However, the difference between direct and representative democracy is that in the decision-making process, citizens directly contribute to the decisions in direct democracy, whereas in representative democracy, citizens elect representatives to make decisions on their behalf. Another difference is that direct democracy is more suitable for smaller populations and simpler decisions, whereas representative democracy is more suitable for larger populations and more complex decisions. As well as this, direct democracy is a slower system than representative democracy, as everyone in nation must be involved in the decision, whereas representative democracy is much faster as decisions only require the elected representatives. In the UK, there is a lack of involvement in politics by the public, which is known as a participation crisis. This is shown in the falling voting turnout in general elections since 1979, where it was 76% in 1976 and 59% in 2001. As well as this, a party membership is falling and the public are less trusting of politicians. This has led to a democratic deficit, which is where decisions are being made by people who lack legitimacy. Because of this, it is debated whether to make reforms to the current system of democracy in the UK. One possible reform is to make voting compulsory, which would make representatives more legitimate, but would violate individuals' freedom not to vote. Another possible reform is to lower the voting age from 18 to 16, which would bring in more younger voters, but they are less likely to vote. Another possible reform is to use a democracy where citizens vote using the internet, which would make voting more accessible as citizens do not have to leave their homes, but there is risk of hacking which could make the result less accurate and would undermine the legitimacy of elections. Suffrage is the right to vote in public elections, with the franchise being all the people with this right. There have been many key milestones in extending the franchise. The Great Reform Act 1832 granted suffrage to men who were shopkeepers, farmers, and who paid £10 in rent per annum. The Second Reform Act 1867 doubled the electorate to 2 million, but women, the propertyless, and those with cheap properties were excluded. The Ballot Act 1872 introduced the secret ballot, which meant that votes cannot be bought by corrupt candidates, and voters can make up their own minds. The Third Reform Act 1884 extended the franchise to most working men, so now 60% of adults can vote. The Representation of the People Act 1918 allowed most adult men to vote, as well as women who are married, own a property, or are a graduate. The Representation of the People Act Equal Franchise Act 1928 allowed all adults over the age of 21 to vote, including women. The Representation of the People Act 1948 established the principle of one person, one vote, as some people was able to vote more than once in the same election, which was based on property ownership, university membership, and business ownership. The Representation of the People Act 1969 reduced the voting age from 21 to 18. The Scottish Elections Reduction of Voting Age Act 2016 allowed 17-year-olds to vote in Scottish elections, but not in UK general elections. The Send an Election Wales Act 2020 lowered the voting age to 16 for Welsh elections, but not UK general elections. The lack of change in women's right to vote led to the creation of the suffragists. The suffragists were a national organisation of committees that attempted to work with the government. They also had membership open to everyone and operated democratically, using peaceful protest methods. Due to the lack of success of the suffragists, the suffragettes were formed, who were a group of 20th century campaigners that advocated for the enfranchisement of women and women's rights by lobbying Parliament and using civil disobedience. The suffragettes were London-centred, only allowing women to be members. They were run by Pankhurst and tried to intimidate the government by using violent and illegal methods. A recent movement to extend the franchise is to grant 16 to 17-year-olds the right to vote. One reason for this is that young people are better politically informed, which is better enabled by social media. As well as this, the turnout for 18 to 24-year-olds is typically very low, so allowing 16 to 17-year-olds to vote may cause more people to vote and be politically engaged. In addition, 16 to 17-year-olds can already serve in the army, get married, and pay tax, but they are not allowed to vote. Another reason for giving suffrage to 16 to 17-year-olds is that the radicalism of the young may balance the extreme conservatism of the older citizens. However, one reason against this is that 16 to 17-year-olds may be too young to make a rational judgment on the issue, and the issue may be too complex for them to understand. As well as this, few 16 to 17-year-olds pay tax, which means that they have a lower stake in society. In addition, 16 to 17-year-olds may be excessively radical and too inexperienced to consider the issues carefully. Another recent movement to extend the franchise is to grant the right to vote to prisoners. One reason for this is that prison is for rehabilitation and getting prisoners back into society, so they should have a say on what type of society they go back into. As well as this, voting is considered a human right, so prisoners should have the right to vote. However, one reason against this is that prisoners have already shown a disregard for the law, so they should not have a say in what the law is. As well as this, voting is seen as a privilege, not a right, which is taken away when they are in prison. In addition, prisoners have not paid their debt to society for committing their crimes, so they do not deserve the right to vote. A pressure group is a membership-based organization that aims to influence lawmaking but does not seek political power for themselves. If a pressure group were to seek political power, they would become a political party. There are 4 types of pressure groups, including causal, sectional, insider, and outsider. A causal group, also called a promotional group, seeks to promote a specific cause and seek to advance that cause by raising awareness and influencing public opinion. A sectional group represents a section of a community or society, typically individuals with the same profession, and seek to advance the interests of that section by influencing public policy. Pressure groups are typically one or the other, either causal or sectional, but it is possible for a pressure group to be both, which depends on what they are trying to promote. An insider pressure group is, or is likely to be, consulted by the government about their cause. An outsider pressure group is not, or is very unlikely to be, consulted by the government about their cause. Because of the differing levels of input insider and outsider pressure groups have with the government and policy making, insider pressure groups will have more influence over the government's decisions than outsider pressure groups will, and therefore will be more likely to bring about changes for their cause. In order to promote their cause, pressure groups will have to use at least one of the 7 methods in an attempt to influence public opinion and policy to bring about change. These methods include lobbying of financial grants to political parties, a personal support from members of parliament, media campaigns, a direct action, illegal action, and legal proceedings. Lobbying is where a body seeks influence on a political figure. Pressure groups use lobbying to state their views directly to policymakers and respond to any of their queries or concerns. Financial grants to political parties are where a body gives a political party an amount of money in hope they are viewed more favorably. Pressure groups give financial grants to political parties to get their support on their interests and to influence the policies that are brought about. Personal support from members of parliament is when a member of parliament supports a body or cause in any way. Pressure groups want personal support from members of parliament as they have better representation in parliament and will be better able to influence policy and legislative decisions. Media campaigns are a planned series of newspaper articles, television interviews, or social media posts that are intended to meet a specific aim. Pressure groups use media campaigns to make the public more aware of their cause and influence government and policymakers. Direct action is any method of drawing attention from the media, public, and congressmen to try and further their cause. Pressure groups take direct action to bring more attention to their cause and out it in a positive light. Illegal action is any method of drawing attention from the media, public, or congressmen in a way that breaks the law. Pressure groups typically take illegal action to attract significant attention, possibly because their legal action has been ineffective. They may also take illegal action as a way of demonstrating their commitment to their cause. Judicial review is where a judge reviews the lawfulness of a public body's decision or action. A legal proceeding is where a party argues in favor of their claims and the decision is made by a judge, jury, or other trier on the factual or legal issues. Pressure groups may use judicial reviews and legal proceedings to challenge the decisions of public authorities if they believe that these decisions are unlawful, irrational, or unfair. By doing this, pressure groups can hold public authorities accountable and ensure that they comply with their legal obligations. There are 5 factors that can affect pressure groups and the influence that they have over the government and the cause that they promote. These are the size of their membership, or the finance available, the strategic position of the group, or the mood of the public and the attitude of the government. The size of a pressure group's membership can lead to them having more influence, as they will be able to put more pressure on decision makers if they have more supporters. The finance available to a pressure group can lead to them having more influence, as they will be able to pay for campaigns, lobbyists, sponsorships for political parties, and more favorable publicity to make their voices heard. The strategic position of a pressure group can lead to them having more influence, as a group that is more important to the economy or is a key service can put more pressure on the government. Public mood can lead to the pressure group having more influence, as public sentiment and a strong campaign can bring the issue to the attention of decision makers, and politicians are more likely to support a popular cause. The attitude of the government can lead to a pressure group having more influence, as they are more likely to get the outcome that they want if the government is sympathetic to and agree with the group's cause and position. Just Stop Oil is an outsider causal pressure group that are focused on addressing human-caused climate change. Just Stop Oil's methods of gaining attention and influence include civil resistance, non-violent direct action, traffic obstruction, and vandalism. The size of Just Stop Oil's membership size is unknown, but they describe themselves as a rapidly growing movement that aims to mobilize 3,000 people. Both the public and the government agree with Just Stop Oil's climate concerns, but the government's actions do not fully align with their demands. While Just Stop Oil has raised awareness of the issues of climate change, they have been unable to influence the government to implement policies on climate change, which is shown by the government's continued support of fossil fuel exploration. The British Medical Association is an insider, sectional pressure group that represents doctors and medical students. The British Medical Association's methods of gaining attention and influence include lobbying, campaigning, legal action, engaging in open debate, and participating in meetings. The size of the British Medical Association's membership is large, with 190,366 members. The British Medical Association represents doctors and medical students, which is a key service for the country. Both the public and the government agree with the British Medical Association, with the public showing their support for doctors and the government agreeing to make changes for them. The British Medical Association has influenced healthcare policies and practices, with the government agreeing to make improvements to the pay structure for consultant doctors and agreeing to make reforms for specialist doctors. Other organizations, besides pressure groups, can influence the political and legal decision-making process. They may use the same methods as pressure groups, but will act slightly differently. A think tank is a group of experts that are brought together to focus on a certain topic. They have influence over the government and parliament as they develop policy ideas the government and political parties use, which gives them some influence over what these policies are. However, they are normally directed on what they need to work on and do not have free rein over the policies that they develop, which reduces the influence that they have. An example of a think tank is the Institute for Public Policy Research, which conducts research and analysis on the policies the government introduces. Lobbyists are companies that get paid to gain access to government for their clients, which is usually done by employing ex-politicians who know how to access decision makers. Lobbyists often have a direct link with decision makers who they may be able to convince to join their cause and have some influence over, which will give them some influence over the decisions that are being made. However, because government decisions often require multiple people to make the decision, lobbyists will have low influence over the government and the policies that they introduce if their influence is limited to one person. An example of a lobbyist company is the Confederation of British Industry, which has influenced fiscal and monetary policies using its quarterly forecasts and sectoral surveys. Large companies may seek to lobby the government to encourage them to legislate or not legislate in certain areas. The influence of a corporation depends on the number of people that they employ, the finance that they have available to them, the strategic position of the company, and whether the public and the government agree with their interests. With a larger number of employees and an important strategic position, larger companies can act similar to a pressure group and gain some influence over the policies that the government introduces. An example of a large company that has influenced government policies is British Gas, which plays a role in energy policies, renewable energy adoption, and environmental regulations. Civil rights are rights and freedoms protected by the government, with the state having to protect these rights and ensure people can carry them out freely and equally. Civil liberties are rights and freedoms that protect people from arbitrary treatment from the state or government. Human rights combine civil rights and civil liberties and apply to all people and cannot be shortened or removed. Traditionally, UK people had the right to do what they wanted, unless it was illegal. These are called residual or negative right. Judges would decide the traditional or normal way to settle disputes, which would establish common law. There have been many acts that have been passed that have developed the rights of UK people. The Magna Carta 1215 introduced trial by jury and limited the monarch's power so that the monarch could only impose tax with the consent of the people. The European Convention of Human Rights 1950 obligated the government to give UK people certain human rights and prevented the government from taking these away. The Race Relations Act 1965 outlawed discrimination based on race or ethnicity. The Equal Pay Act 1970 made it law that men and women have to be paid the same for the same job. The Human Rights Act 1998 made the European Convention of Human Rights into UK law, which established a range of rights that replaces statutes and common law. The Freedom of Information Act 2000 allowed people to see what information public bodies had on them and to see government spending in information. The Disabilities and Discrimination Act 2005 made it unlawful for employers to treat disabled individuals less favorably because of their disability without justification. The Equality Act 2010 outlawed discrimination against people with the following characteristics: gender reassignment, age, race, pregnancy and maternity, marriage and civil partnership, religion or beliefs, sex, sexual orientation, or disability. The Marriage Act 2013 made same-sex marriage legal. The Marriage and Civil Partnership Act 2023 raised the minimum age for marriage from 16 to 18. All citizens have formal equality, which is established through judicial precedent, although it is debated to what extent these are protected, as Parliament is sovereign and cannot bind its successors. This means that the current Parliament cannot pass a law that a future Parliament is unable to amend or replace. Another limit on the extent human rights is protected is that there are instances where Parliament can ignore the European Convention of Human Rights and the Human Rights Act, and rights can be suspended by the government under certain circumstances. Human rights are protected to a greater extent as the UK has a strong common law tradition and is subject to the European Convention of Human Rights. As well as this, the judiciary has a reputation for being independent and upholding the rule of law, even against the government and parliament's wishes. However, human rights are protected to a lesser extent as common law can be vague and disputed and can be set aside by parliamentary statutes. As well as this, Parliament remains sovereign and can ignore the European Convention of Human Rights and can repeal the Human Rights Act. In addition, there is pressure on the government to reduce the rights of individuals in the interest of national security as a result of international terrorism. It is argued whether the collective rights of society are more important than the rights of individuals, with there being some collective rights that conflict with individual rights. The individual right to freedom of expression conflicts with the collective rights of religious groups to not have their beliefs satirized or questioned. The individual right to privacy conflicts with the collective right of the community to be protected from terrorism by security services that may listen to private communications. The individual right to freedom of the press conflicts with the collective right of public figures to keep their private lives private. The individual right to demonstrate in public places and therefore cause a disruption conflicts with the collective right of the community to their freedom of movement. The individual right to strike in pursuit of pay and employment rights conflicts with the collective right of the community to expect good service from public servants who are paid from taxation. Civil liberties groups are similar to pressure groups but work with think tanks and lobbyists. There are several of these that seek to challenge and defend the rights in the UK, which the Human Rights Act has made it easier for them to do. An example of a civil liberties group is Liberty, who changes injustice and defends freedom. Liberty has taken a High Court challenge against the Investigatory Powers Act to prevent extensive surveillance powers to the authorities. As well as this, Liberty has also campaigned against hostile environment policies and advocated against indefinite immigration detention to ensure immigrants are treated fairly and ensure their human rights are protected. Another example of a civil liberties group is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who focuses on digital civil liberties. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, along with other groups, has opposed the UK Online Safety Act, which would have allowed online platforms to search through users' photos, files, and messages for illegal content. Political parties have many functions and features and have many sources of funding. Parties range from being established and highly likely to be elected to playing a minor role in politics. A political party is a group of people that seeks political power. Political parties have many functions, which includes provide a method of political participation, recruit individuals for political roles, represent a section of society, provide a government when they are elected, and form policies of what they intend to do. Political parties have many features. One feature of political parties is that they have the aim to gain power by winning political office. Another feature of political parties is that its members share a common ideology, but the party has a broad focus on many different areas. As well as this, political parties also have an organizational structure to ensure they can operate efficiently. Political parties are currently funded through membership subscriptions, fundraising events, donations, loans, self-financing, and grants. There are many debates on the consequences of the current funding system. An argument that the current funding system is beneficial is that it allows multiple parties to sustain themselves and support smaller parties in developing their policies. As well as this, it encourages the parties to engage with the public to bring in more memberships and donations. In addition, the Electoral Commission's role in monitoring and reporting donations promotes transparency, which allows the public to scrutinize the sources of party funding. However, an argument that the current funding system is not beneficial is that the dominance of the main parties means the smaller parties cannot campaign as heavily and therefore has little chance of being elected to form government. As well as this, the Electoral Commission only monitors and reports donations over the value of £500, so there is potential for hidden and unaccountable influence if an individual or company were to donate multiple times. In addition, relying on donations may bring about an undemocratic source of influence that individuals or companies may have over political parties. There are three established political parties in the UK: the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, and the Liberal Democratic Party. The Conservative Party was originally the Tory party in the late 17th century. This party emerged as a political faction that supported the monarchy and opposed parliamentary power. The modern Conservative Party began to form in the early 19th century with the growth of industrialization and the international market. During this development, the Tory party was rebranded to the Conservative Party, which came with an outlined vision of pragmatic conservatism. This also brought the development of one nation conservatism, which is a more paternalistic approach to conservatism. In the early 20th century, Margaret Thatcher influenced the Conservative Party's modern ideological direction with the support of free market policies and reduced state intervention. This led to the development of new right conservatism with the support of a more authoritarian approach to law and order, as well as the support of a free market approach to the economy. The Conservative Party's historical development has shaped its policies on the economy, law and order, welfare, and foreign affairs. Due to Margaret Thatcher's influence in the 1980s, the Conservative Party's economic policy favours the deregulation and privatisation of markets, with reduced state intervention. The Conservative Party's law and order policy focuses on maintaining social stability with strong policing and strict sentencing. The Conservative Party has had a historical emphasis on individualism and self-reliance, which has led to their welfare policy encouraging personal responsibility with minimal welfare being provided. Thatcher's strong emphasis on national sovereignty led to the Conservative Party's foreign affairs policy encouraging a strong defence policy with active global engagement, as shown with their approach to Brexit and international trade agreements. The Labour Party was founded in the early 20th century, initially emerging from the trade union movement and socialist political groups. This party was established to represent the working class and advocate for workers' rights and social equality. The modern Labour Party began to form in the post-World War II era with the introduction of the welfare state and nationalisation of key industries. During this development, the Labour Party solidified its vision of social democracy, which emphasised the redistribution of wealth and comprehensive state and welfare services. This period also brought the development of New Labour in the late 20th century, which is a more moderate approach to traditional Labour principles. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, figures like Tony Blair influenced the Labour Party's modern ideological direction, promoting a third-way approach that combined free market economics with social justice. This led to the development of policies that supported a mixed economy with both public and private sector roles and a focus on social inclusion. The Labour Party's historical development has shaped its policies on the economy, law and order, welfare, and foreign affairs. Due to the influence of New Labour in the 1990s, the Labour Party's economic policy favours a balanced approach that includes regulation and public investment with an emphasis on reducing inequality. The Labour Party's law and order policy focuses on addressing the root causes of crime through social programmes, while still supporting effective policing and community safety. The Labour Party has had a historical emphasis on social welfare, which has led to their welfare policy advocating for robust support systems, including healthcare, education, and unemployment benefits, to ensure social safety nets. New Labour's focus on international cooperation has shaped the Labour Party's foreign affairs policy to encourage humanitarian interventions and strong alliances with international organisations like the United Nations and NATO. The classical liberal ideas were formed in the late 18th century with the view that freedom can only be achieved with the state playing a minimal role. The Liberal Democratic Party was originally formed in 1988 from a merger between the Liberal Party and the Social Democratic Party. The Liberal Party had roots going back to the 19th century, emerging from the Whigs, a political faction that supported parliamentary reform and civil liberties. The modern Liberal Democratic Party began to form in the late 20th century, with the merger aiming to create a centrist political force that combined social liberalism with social democracy. During this development, the Lib Dems outlined a vision of progressive politics, advocating for individual rights, social justice, and democratic reforms. In the early 21st century, leaders like Nick Clegg influenced the Liberal Democrats' modern liberalism with the support of state intervention in the market and emphasis on civil liberties. This led to the development of a balanced approach to economic and social policies, promoting both free markets and robust social safety nets. The Liberal Democratic Party's historical development has shaped its policies on the economy, law and order, welfare, and foreign affairs. Due to the influence of modern liberalism, the Lib Dems' economic policy favors a mixed economy that supports free markets while ensuring strong regulatory frameworks and social justice. The Lib Dems' law and order policy focuses on protecting civil liberties and human rights, promoting rehabilitation over punishment methods. The party has had a historical emphasis on social justice and equality, which has led to their welfare policy advocating for comprehensive support systems that provide universal healthcare, education, and social security. The Lib Dems' commitment to internationalism and cooperation has shaped their foreign affairs policy to encourage strong alliances with international organizations like the European Union and the United Nations, and a focus on global human rights and environmental sustainability. Emerging and minor parties are important for many reasons. One reason is that they are able to influence the major parties and push them to address specific issues and policies. As well as this, minor parties are able to represent diverse and minority views that may not be represented by the major parties. In addition, minor parties can provide representation for certain regions that may have unique concerns. Another reason minor parties are important is because it encourages people to participate in politics and vote in an election, even if they feel their views are not represented by the major parties. The UK Independence Party heavily supports the UK leaving the European Union with the aim to achieve sovereignty. UKIP also has policies that are focused on reducing immigration and securing United Kingdom's borders. As well as this, UKIP promotes British business and wants to reduce the United Kingdom's dependence on international trade agreements. The Scottish National Party's primary goal is to achieve Scotland's independence from the UK. They have policies that are aimed at improving social welfare, which includes free healthcare, education, and social services. The SNP are focused on growing Scotland's economy and has a strong opposition to nuclear weapons. Plaid Cymru's primary goal is to achieve Wales' independence from the UK. Plaid Cymru has policies that are aimed at reducing poverty and inequality by improving public services and social welfare. Plaid Cymru also emphasizes environmental sustainability and renewable energy. The Green Party has a strong focus on combating climate change, reducing carbon emissions, and promoting renewable energy sources. The Green Party also advocates social equality with higher minimum wages, wealth redistribution, and improved public services. They also support a democratic reform to achieve more proportional representation. The Democratic Unionist Party has a strong commitment to maintaining Northern Ireland's status as part of the UK. They also have strong support for Northern Ireland leaving the European Union with the UK, while also opposing any barriers between the borders of Northern Ireland and Great Britain. The DUP promotes free market principles, lower taxes, and support for local businesses to stimulate economic growth. They also support strong law enforcement and measures to combat terrorism and organised crime. Sinn Féin has the main goal of uniting Ireland whilst promoting cross-border cooperation. Sinn Féin also emphasises reducing inequality through progressive taxation, increasing social welfare, and improving public services. They are also committed to investing in and improving the healthcare system and education. Reform UK has the main goals of ensuring the UK leaves the European Union. They also aim to reform the economy through low taxes and deregulation. Reform UK promotes democratic reform, such as changes to the electoral system and reducing the size of the government. They also have a focus on public services, with an emphasis on healthcare and law enforcement. The UK has developed a multi-party system which makes decisions more representative. There are also many reasons for the success and failure of the parties in this system. The multi-party system in the UK evolved from its two-party dominance by the Conservative and Labour parties. Over the 20th century, the Liberal Party's influence began to decrease but was eventually reformed into the Liberal Democrats. The post-war period saw the rise of regional parties, such as the Scottish National Party and Plaid Cymru, reflecting the need for regional representation, as well as this the rise of the Green Party and the UK Independence Party in the late 20th and early 21st centuries brought in new aspects to UK politics, with increased concerns over environmental issues and European Union membership, which were not a main focus of the main political parties. With these parties being elected into Parliament, the government is required to take on board the concerns of these parties and implement policies that agree with their ideas. The development of the multi-party system has also led to the increased influence of both left-wing and right-wing parties, with left-wing parties desiring change and right-wing parties support little to no change in the current systems. There are many implications of a multi-party system for government. One implication is that there is an increased likelihood of having to form a coalition government where two parties work together to form a majority, which leads to more negotiations and compromise. This is shown with the Conservative and Liberal Democratic coalition government formed in 2010. Another implication is that the legislative process is less efficient as parties with different values have a say on what is in the policy, which means there may be more revisions of the policy before it gets passed. This was shown when the Conservative government had a small majority between 2010 and 2015 and had difficulties passing legislation, particularly regarding Brexit. Another implication is that there is increased representation as other parties can question the decisions of the government, which means that more diverse and minority viewpoints are involved in the decisions. This is shown with the inclusion of the Green Party and the Scottish National Party. There are many factors that affect the success of political parties, including leadership, valence, unity, funding, and the media. Leadership influences the success of political parties as the leader will show the vision and direction of the party. As well as this, charismatic and trustworthy leaders are able to increase and maintain voter and member support. In addition, leaders who can make good decisions regarding their campaigns and policies will be able to improve the party's success. An example of when a party has succeeded due to its leadership was when Tony Blair was the leader of the Labour Party. This is because Blair's new Labour rebranding provided a vision for the party and a direction for their policies. Blair's charismatic leadership allowed him to resonate with members of the electorate with a broad range of views. This led to Labour succeeding in the 1997 general election, with 418 seats of the 650 seats available. However, an example of when a party has failed due to its leadership is when Theresa May was the leader of the Conservative Party. This is because May's decision-making, particularly with Brexit negotiations, lacked clarity and led to confusion. As well as this, May struggled to maintain unity in the Conservative Party over Brexit, which led to multiple parliamentary defeats and internal disagreement and dissatisfaction. This led to the Conservative Party losing their majority in the 2017 general election and to May resigning in 2019. Valence refers to the public's perception of a party rather than their policies. Valence influences the success of political parties as a high valence will ensure trust and credibility among voters. As well as this, the party will be perceived as being more competent at managing the economy and public services, so they will have higher voter confidence. An example of when a party has succeeded due to its valence was when Tony Blair was the leader of the Labour Party. This is because Blair's leadership modernised the party's image and presented Labour as competent and in touch with current issues. As well as this, Blair was perceived as a credible and effective leader, which contributed to Labour's victory in the 1997 general election. However, an example of when a party has failed due to its valence was when John Major was the leader of the Conservative Party. This is because Major's government had many scandals and internal divisions, which led to poor public perception of the Conservative Party, which was backed by the government's mismanagement of economic issues. This led to a loss in the 1997 general election, where the Conservatives only won 178 seats of the 650 available seats. Unity refers to how much the members of a political party agree on their policies, strategies, and leadership. Unity influences the success of political parties, as a unified party will have clear and consistent messaging which is more appealing to the electorate as they know what they are voting for. As well as this, a unified party will have more efficient campaigns and will be able to implement their policies more smoothly. An example of when a party has succeeded due to its unity was when Margaret Thatcher was the leader of the Conservative Party. This is because the members of the Conservative Party all agreed on Thatcher's policies and there was no confusion as to the direction of the party, which increased voter confidence. This led to the repeated successes of the Conservative Party, winning the general elections of 1979, 1983 and 1987. However, an example of when a party has failed due to its unity was when Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party. This is because the members of the party were divided over their policies on Brexit, which led to mixed messages and a lack of a clear strategy. This led to a major loss in the 2019 general election, where the Labour Party won 202 seats. The funding a political party receives influences the success of political parties, as they will have the funds to run an effective campaign, which will make voters more informed about their policies and may make voters more likely to vote for that party. This also allows parties to develop their policies more effectively and appeal to voters. An example of when a party has succeeded due to its funding is when the Conservative Party won the general election in 2015. This is because they had significant financial resources that allowed the Conservatives to run a strong and organized campaign, which helped effectively convey their policies. However, an example of when a party has failed due to its funding is when the Liberal Democratic Party failed to win a significant number of seats in the 2017 general election. This is because the Liberal Democrats faced significant financial constraints that limited their ability to compete with the campaigns of larger parties. This led to them only winning 12 seats out of the 650 seats available. The media can influence the success of a political party as it provides a platform for parties to reach a broad audience. As well as this, the media can influence the way the public perceives the party depending on how positively they report the party. As well as this, the media can highlight certain issues which influences what the voters consider to be important, so the parties will have to address these issues in order to bring in more votes. An example of when a party has succeeded due to the media was when Tony Blair was the leader of the Labour Party. This is because the media provided positive coverage of his rebrand as New Labour, which helped Blair reach a wider audience. This led to Labour winning 418 seats of the 650 seats available in the 1997 general election. However, an example of when a party has failed due to the media is when Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party. This is because the media's coverage on Ed Miliband was negative, which undermined the voters' confidence in Miliband's leadership capabilities and personal image. This led to the Labour Party losing 26 seats in the 2015 general election. The media has a positive influence on political parties as it informs the public on the essential information about the parties. As well as this, the media facilitates public debate, which enhances democracy. In addition, the investigations and fact-checking that the media carries out allows the media to hold political parties accountable for their actions and promises. However, the media also has a negative influence on political parties as media sources may favor certain parties more than others, so there may be bias in their reports. As well as this, the media tends to focus on controversial topics which can distract from more important political discussions. In addition, smaller parties are often covered less than the larger parties, which reduces their visibility and their chances in elections. Elections are a key feature of a representative democracy. Electoral systems are methods of voting for a representative. There are 4 different types of electoral systems, which includes first-past-the-post, additional member system, single transferable votes, and supplementary votes. First-past-the-post is the electoral system used in the UK for general elections. In this system, the electorate votes for a candidate for the constituency that they are in, with the candidate that receives the most votes winning the seat in Parliament for that constituency. The party that has the most candidates in Parliament forms the government. One advantage of first-past-the-post is that it is a simple system that voters can easily understand. As well as this, the elected representatives are bound to the needs and wants of their constituency. In addition, first-past-the-post is part of political tradition that produces an outright winner. However, one disadvantage of first-past-the-post is that it favours large parties, with the biggest party tending to win more seats than its proportion of votes. As well as this, first-past-the-post can fail to produce a decisive government. The additional member system is the electoral system used in Scotland, Wales and the Greater London Authority. In this system, voters cast 2 votes, one for a candidate in their local constituency and another for a party list. The local constituencies are filled using the first-past-the-post method, while the party list vote is used to allocate additional seats to achieve a proportional representation in the legislature. An advantage of the additional member system is that it is proportional and provides a wider choice of representative candidates. As well as this, there is a strong link between the constituency and the member of Parliament. However, a disadvantage of the additional member system is that it creates 2 different types of party members and representatives. As well as this, the additional member system uses a closed list system, so the leadership of the party orders the candidates and voters do not get a say. In addition, smaller parties may achieve less representation than they would under a fully proportional representative system. There are many similarities and differences between the additional member system and first-past-the-post. One similarity between these voting systems is that they both involve electing a constituency representative with candidates competing for individual seats and will be accountable to that constituency once elected. However, a difference between these voting voting systems is that voters cast 2 votes in the additional member system, but cast a single vote in first past the post. As well as this, the additional member system tends to be more representative than first past the post. In addition, the additional member system is more likely to produce a coalition government, while first past the post tends to produce a majority government consisting of one party. The single transferable votes is the voting system used for the Northern Irish Assembly. In this system, each party will put up a candidate for the seats available. Voters will then number the candidates for their constituency in order of preference, and after the election, an electoral quota is calculated, which is the number of votes in the election divided by the number of seats available and won. If no party reaches this quota with first preferences, the least popular candidate is eliminated and the second preferences are transferred. This process is continued until the electoral quota is reached by a candidate. An advantage of the single transferable vote system is that there is a high voter choice as they order every candidate that is running. As well as this, there is a close correlation between the votes and the seats, making this system more representative of what the electorate wants. In addition, single transferable votes has created power-sharing coalition governments, which prevents one party coming too dominant. However, one disadvantage of the single transferable vote system is that it is not fully proportional as it uses second and third preferences. As well as this, there can still be conflict between rivals, despite bringing them closer. In addition, this method is more complex, which may confuse voters, resulting in them ordering candidates in the order that they appear on the ballot paper. There are many similarities and differences between single transferable votes and first past the post. One similarity is that both systems focus on individual candidates, with voters selecting an individual representative rather than a party. However, a difference is that voters choose a single candidate in first past the post, but rank all candidates in preference order in single transferable votes. As well as this, in first past the post, seats are allocated based on who wins the most votes, whereas single transferable votes allocate seats based on who meets the electoral quota. Supplementary votes is the voting system used for electing mayors. In this system, each voter has a first and second preference vote. The candidate with more than 50% of the first preference votes are automatically elected. If this does not happen, all the candidates except the top 2 are eliminated and second preference votes are added so that there is an overall winner. One advantage of the supplementary vote system is that it ensures a broad range of support for the winner. As well as this, it is simple and straightforward to use, so voters are less likely to get confused. In addition, it encourages campaigning in all constituencies, including safe seat constituencies, which is a constituency where one specific party is voted and is unlikely to change from that party. However, a disadvantage of the supplementary vote system is that it does not produce a proportional outcome, as one individual is being selected. As well as this, the winner does not need an absolute majority and only need to get more votes than the other candidates. In addition, voters need to be able to identify the likely top 2 candidates to try and influence the outcome. There are many similarities and differences between supplementary votes and first past the post. One similarity is that voters vote for an individual representative rather than for a party, with a single representative being elected. However, one difference is that voters get 2 choices with supplementary votes and get 1 choice with first past the post. As well as this, in first past the post, the candidate with the most votes wins, which can result in a winner without majority support, whereas supplementary votes incorporate second preference votes and aims for the winner to have at least 50% of the votes, resulting in a winner with majority support. A referendum is a vote on an issue that is posed as a question and requires a yes or no answer from the electorate. These are not legally binding on the government, but they are unlikely to ignore the will of the people. In the UK, referendums have been used to get an idea of public opinion on significant political issues, often when the government seeks legitimacy for a major decision. An example of this is the 1975 referendum on whether the UK should remain in the European Economic Community, which was the first national referendum held in the UK. Since then, there have been the 1997 referendums in Scotland and Wales on devolution, and the 2014 Scottish independence referendum. The most recent referendum was the 2016 referendum on the United Kingdom's membership in the European Union, where a narrow majority voted to leave, leading to profound political and economic changes. While not legally binding, the outcomes of these referendums have typically been respected and implemented by the government. Referendums have significantly impacted politics in the UK since 1997. Referendums involve the electorate in crucial decisions that can lead to changes in the government and national identity. For example, the 1997 referendums resulted in the creation of the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Assembly, which altered the structure of the political system in the UK and led to greater regional representation. The 2014 Scottish independence referendum led to more debates on national sovereignty and more calls for independence. The 2016 Brexit referendum led to political divisions and uncertainty in the economy. Referendums have increased the influence of direct democracy, allowing it to influence specific policies and the government's power. There are many arguments for and against referendums in a representative democracy. One argument for referendums in a representative democracy is that it is the purest form of democracy and can increase the political awareness of voters. As well as this, referendums can help solve conflicts within the government and can help prevent the government becoming overly dominant in parliament. However, one argument against referendums in a representative democracy is that the issues may be too complex for people to understand and they may be swayed by emotional appeals instead of voting based on their opinion. As well as this, the government chooses when to call a referendum, which means that they have control over referendums and only use them when they want. In addition, they challenge parliamentary sovereignty as the electorate are making the decision, not parliament. Another argument against referendums is that there is usually a low turnout, which means the result is not representative of what the entire population wants. Different electoral systems are used across the UK for many reasons, with each electoral system having an impact on the government, party representation and voter choice. One reason why first past the post is used for general elections is because the outcome usually achieves the interests of the two main parties, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. As well as this, voters accept first past the post as it is familiar and easy to use. In addition, first past the post tends to produce a majority government, which means they have the majority of the seats in Parliament. Another reason first past the post is used is because each member of Parliament represents a specific area of the country, which ensure a link between the constituents and their representative. As well as this, the first past the post system can prevent smaller, potentially extremist parties from gaining influence in Parliament. In addition, first past the post usually produces clear winners, which reduces the need for negotiation after the election and the need to form coalition governments, which is a government formed from more than one party. Using the first past the post electoral system impacts the government, party representation and voter choice. The impact of first past the post on the government is that it provides a stable majority government which allows them to implement their policies more effectively. The impact of first past the post on party representation is that larger parties tend to receive a large amount of representation while smaller parties are underrepresented. The impact of the first past the post system on voter choice is that the choice is limited as voters get one choice for a candidate who may not have a realistic chance of winning. This depends on whether the voter's constituency is a safe seat or marginal seat where the representative of a constituency is likely to come from a different party in the next election. One reason why the additional member system is used for Scotland, Wales and the Greater London Authority is because it allows for proportional representation, which pleased the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish National Party. As well as this, the additional member system allows smaller parties to gain representation, which reduces the dominance of larger parties. In addition, the additional member system provides a mix of directly elected representatives for local constituencies, as well as additional members elected to represent wider regional interests, which ensure both local and regional concerns are addressed. Another reason the additional member system is used is because it encourages voters to participate as they are able to support their preferred candidate and their preferred party. Using the additional member system impacts the government, party representation, and voter choice. The impact of the additional member system on the government is that it often results in a more proportional distribution of seats, which can lead to coalition governments and potentially slow policy implementation. The impact of the additional member system on party representation is that it allows for a more accurate reflection of the overall vote, giving smaller parties and independent candidates a fairer share of seats. The impact of the additional member system on voter choice is that it provides voters with two votes, which enhances their ability to support both their preferred individual and their preferred party for regional representation. One reason why the single transferable vote system is used for the Northern Irish Assembly is because it allows for proportional representation, which was essential in addressing the political issues of Northern Ireland. As well as this, the single transferable vote system ensures that smaller parties and independent candidates have a fair chance of gaining representation, which helps to reduce the dominance of larger parties and promote a power-sharing government. In addition, the single transferable vote system allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference, which gives them more control over who gets elected and helps to ensure that elected representatives have broader support. Another reason the single transferable vote system is used is because it helps to create more balanced and inclusive governments, which is important for Northern Ireland as they have a history of political division. Using the single transferable vote system impacts the government party representation and voter choice. The impact of the single transferable vote system on the government is that it often leads to coalition or minority governments, which is a government that does not have a majority of seats in parliament. This can result in more collaborative policy-making but potentially slower decision-making processes. The impact of the single transferable vote system on party representation is that it provides a more proportional allocation of seats, allowing smaller parties and independent candidates to gain fair representation based on their share of the vote. The impact of the single transferable vote system on voter choice is that it allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference, giving them greater flexibility and ensuring that their votes contribute to the election outcome even if their first choice candidate does not win. One reason why the supplementary vote system is used for electing mayors in the UK is because it ensures that the winning candidate has a broader base of support by requiring them to gain more than 50% of the vote after second preferences are counted. As well as this, the supplementary vote system allows voters to express a second preference, which reduces the likelihood of wasted votes and gives candidates from smaller parties a better chance of influencing the outcome. In addition, the supplementary vote system is simple to understand and straightforward to set up and use, which ensures that the electoral process is clear and accessible to all voters. Another reason the supplementary vote system is used is because it encourages candidates to appeal to a wider range of voters, as securing second preferences can be crucial to winning the election. Using the supplementary vote system impacts the government party representation and voter choice. The impact of supplementary votes on the government is that it can lead to the election of mayors with broader support, often resulting in a more stable leadership that reflects a wider range of voter preferences. The impact of supplementary votes on party representation is that it tends to benefit major parties while still giving smaller parties a chance to influence the outcome through second choice votes that may not be as proportional as other systems. The impact of supplementary votes on voter choice is that it allows voters to express a first and second preference, which provides more flexibility and ensures that their votes help elect a candidate who has broad support. There are many factors that affect voting behavior, including gender, age, class, and region. Voting behavior is also impacted by partisanship, which is the strong support for a particular political party or ideology. Voting behavior is also influenced by the party manifestos, which is a declaration of the principles, goals, and policies used in elections to outline the party's vision and commitments. In addition, voting behavior is also affected by salient issues, which are the most important topics or concerns in a particular context, often influencing public opinion and decision-making, such as in elections or political debates. The outcome of the 1983 general election have a distinct impact on the three main parties. The Conservative Party secured 42% of the votes, winning 397 seats out of the 650 seats available. The Labour Party received 28% of the votes, resulting in 209 seats. The Liberal Democrats received 26% of the votes, earning 23 seats. The outcome of the 1983 general election was influenced by gender, with 47% of men voting for the Conservative Party and 26% of men voting for the Labour Party. Similarly, 42% of women voted for the Conservative Party, while 30% of women voted for the Labour Party. The 1983 election outcome was impacted by gender, as both men and women showed stronger support for the Conservatives, reflecting a broad support for their economic policies and a strong opposition to Labour's proposals. Age also played a role in the 1983 general election results, with 36% of voters in the 18-24 age group supporting Labour and 41% supporting the Conservatives. Among those aged 25-44, 27% supported Labour and 47% supported the Conservatives. Voters aged 45 and above were even more likely to back the Conservatives, with 22% supporting Labour and 50% supporting the Conservatives. Age influenced the 1983 general election outcome, with younger voters more inclined towards Labour's progressive policies, while older voters showed a preference for the Conservative Party's economic approach. Ethnicity had an impact on the 1983 election, as 30% of white voters supported Labour, while 47% supported the Conservative Party. In contrast, 15% of black and minority ethnic voters supported Labour compared to 32% supporting the Conservatives. The 1983 election outcome was influenced by ethnicity, with Labour attracting more support from minority ethnic groups due to their commitment to social equality, while the Conservatives received greater support from white voters due to their focus on economic stability. Region had an impact in the 1983 general election as 27% of voters in Scotland supported Labour, while 55% supported the Conservatives. In Northern England, 22% voted for Labour and 56% for the Conservatives. In Greater London, 35% of voters supported Labour and 40% supported the Conservatives. The 1983 election outcome was regionally influenced, with Labour performing better in Scotland and Greater London due to their focus on social issues, while the Conservatives maintained stronger support in Northern England due to their emphasis on economic policies and traditional values. Class had a significant impact on the 1983 general election, with 62% of the working class voting for Labour and 28% voting for the Conservatives. Among the middle class, 30% supported Labour and 45% supported the Conservatives. The upper class showed the strongest preference for the Conservatives, with 20% voting for Labour and 55% voting for the Conservatives. Class influenced the 1983 election outcome, with the working class favouring Labour's promises of social reform, while the middle and upper classes leaned towards the Conservative Party's emphasis on economic stability and traditional policies. The 1983 general election was also affected by partisanship, with a strong alignment of voters to their respective parties. Many voters continued their traditional support for either Labour or Conservative parties, reflecting a period of stable partisan loyalty. The support for the Conservative Party among many voters played a significant role in their substantial electoral victory, showing the impact of entrenched partisan affiliations during this period. The Conservative Party's manifesto in the 1983 general election concentrated on reinforcing economic policies, promising tax cuts, and a strong commitment to reducing inflation through strict fiscal measures. It also emphasized law and order, a tough stance on trade unions, and a continued focus on privatizing state-owned industries. Despite their assertive policies and promises of economic recovery, the Conservative Party's approach in 1983 failed to address growing public concerns over unemployment and social inequality, contributing to their significant electoral advantage but highlighting a growing discontent among voters seeking broader social reforms. The Labour Party's manifesto in the 1983 general election, led by Michael Foot, was characterised by its radical proposals, including increased public spending, nationalisation of key industries, and significant investment in social services. It also advocated for unilateral nuclear disarmament and extensive reforms aimed at reducing inequality. Labour's manifesto, with its comprehensive programme for social change and economic intervention, resonated with voters concerned about economic imbalance and public services, although it struggled to gain widespread support due to concerns over its more extreme policies and perceived impracticality. The Liberal Democrats' manifesto in the 1983 general election focused on electoral reform, specifically advocating for proportional representation, as well as increased funding for education and health services. They also advocated civil liberties and environmental issues, presenting themselves as a moderate alternative to the dominant Labour and Conservative parties. The Liberal Democrats' emphasis on reform and social progress distinguished them from the larger parties, but their impact in the 1983 election was limited, reflecting the electorate's greater support for Labour and the Conservatives. The Conservative Party's campaign during the 1983 general election primarily focused on economic recovery, emphasizing their achievements in reducing inflation and controlling public spending. They also highlighted their stance on law and order, portraying themselves as the party committed to curbing the influence of trade unions and restoring discipline. The Conservative Party's emphasis on economic recovery and strong law enforcement during the 1983 general election did not fully address growing concerns over unemployment and social inequality, leading to a mixed reception among voters and a dominant electoral performance despite underlying discontent. The Labour Party's campaign in the 1983 general election centred on a radical programme for economic and social reform, advocating for substantial increases in public spending, nationalisation of key industries, and measures to reduce income inequality. They also promoted a platform of nuclear disarmament and extensive social programmes aimed at addressing widespread economic and social issues. Labour's campaign, with its focus on bold reform and social justice, attracted significant support from those disappointed with the economic status quo, although their more radical proposals faced scepticism and limited their overall electoral success. The Liberal Democrats' campaign during the 1983 general election focused on advocating for proportional representation and increased investment in education and social services. They also highlighted their commitment to environmental protection and civil liberties, positioning themselves as a moderate and progressive alternative to the larger parties. Despite their clear stance on electoral reform and social issues, the Liberal Democrats' campaign did not receive enough voter support in the 1983 general election, as their appeal was overshadowed by the more focused contest between Labour and the Conservatives. In the 1983 general election, key issues included the state of the economy, particularly high unemployment and inflation, as well as the role and power of trade unions. There was also significant focus on the Labour Party's radical policies and the potential impacts of nationalisation on the economy. The salient issues of economic management, trade union power, and Labour's proposed reforms played a crucial role in shaping voter preferences in the 1983 general election. These concerns contributed to the Conservative Party's substantial electoral success, as they presented themselves as the party capable of stabilising the economy and reducing union influence. The outcome of the 1997 general election had a varied impact on the three main parties. The Conservative Party received 30% of the votes, winning 165 seats of the 650 seats available. The Labour Party received 43% of the votes, winning 418 seats. The Liberal Democrats received 16% of the votes, winning 46 seats. The outcome of the 1997 general election was impacted by gender, with 45% of men voted for the Labour Party and 31% of men voting for the Conservative Party. Similarly, 44% of women voted for the Labour Party, with 32% of women voting for the Conservative Party. The 1997 election outcome was influenced by gender, as both men and women favoured Labour over the Conservatives, reflecting widespread dissatisfaction with the Conservative government's handling of public services and a strong appeal of Labour's promises for reform and investment in healthcare and education. The outcome of the 1997 general election was not impacted by age, as roughly 30% of each age range voting for the Labour Party and roughly 40% of each age range voting for the Conservative Party. The 1997 general election results were not significantly influenced by age because voter preferences were consistently divided, with both younger and older voters showing similar support for the Conservative Party's stability and the Labour Party's reformist promises, reflecting the broad appeal of both parties' platforms across age groups. The outcome of the 1997 general election was impacted by ethnicity, as 32% of white individuals voted for the Labour Party and 43% of white individuals voted for the Conservative Party. However, 18% of black and minority ethnic individuals voted for the Labour Party, with 32% of black and minority ethnic individuals voting for the Conservative Party. The 1997 general election outcome was influenced by ethnicity, with Labour attracting less support from white voters due to their focus on social reform, while the Conservative Party received more support from white voters through their emphasis on economic stability, whereas Labour's policies were more appealing to black and minority ethnic voters who were seeking greater social equality and investment. Region had an impact on the outcome of the 1997 general election, as 18% of the voters in Scotland voted for the Labour Party, with 45% of these voters voting for the Conservative Party. 22% of voters in Northern England voted for the Labour Party, while 61% of these voters voted for the Conservative Party. 31% of voters in Greater London voted for the Labour Party, while 49% of these voters voted for the Conservative Party. The 1997 general election outcome was regionally influenced, with Labour performing better in Scotland and Greater London due to their focus on social reform and public investment, while the Conservatives retained stronger support in Northern England due to their emphasis on economic stability and traditional values. Class had an impact on the outcome of the 1997 general election, as 56% of the working class voted for the Labour Party, while 30% voted for the Conservative Party. 30% of the middle class voted for the Labour Party, while 40% voted for the Conservative Party. 36% of the upper class voted for the Labour Party, while 54% voted for the Conservative Party. Class influenced the 1997 general election outcome, with the working class favouring Labour's promises of public investment and reform, while the middle and upper classes leaned towards the Conservatives' emphasis on economic stability and traditional policies. The 1997 general election was impacted by partisanship, as there was a case of partisan de-alignment where individuals no longer assigned themselves with a certain political party. The 1997 general election saw many individuals leaving the Conservatives and giving Labour a big win under Tony Blair. Partisan de-alignment in the 1997 general election led many voters to abandon the Conservatives in favour of Labour, driven by widespread dissatisfaction with the Conservatives' long tenure and a strong appeal of Labour's promises for change under Tony Blair. The Conservative Party's manifesto in the 1997 general election focused on maintaining economic stability, promising to keep taxes low and further reduce public spending. It also emphasized traditional values, law and order, and a continued commitment to privatization, but struggled to resonate with an electorate seeking change after 18 years of Conservative government. The Conservative Party's focus on economic stability and traditional values in the 1997 general election failed to resonate with an electorate eager for change and reform after 18 years in power, contributing to their significant defeat and Labour's decisive victory. The Labour Party's manifesto in the 1997 general election, branded as A New Labour, focused on modernising Britain by promising investment in public services like health and education, while maintaining fiscal responsibility by not raising income tax rates. It also pledged to tackle unemployment, reform welfare, and create a minimum wage, appealing to a broad range of voters with a centrist platform. Labour's New Labour manifesto, with its promises of public service investment, fiscal responsibility, and social reforms, appealed widely to voters seeking a fresh approach and effective change, leading to their victory in the 1997 general election. The Liberal Democrats' manifesto in the 1997 general election focused on increasing investment in education, funded by a proposed 1% increase in income tax, and advocating for constitutional reforms including proportional representation and devolution. They also emphasized environmental protection and civil liberties, positioning themselves as a progressive alternative to both Labour and the Conservatives. The Liberal Democrats' focus on education funding, constitutional reform, and progressive values position them as a distinct alternative, but their limited impact in the 1997 election reflected the electorate's stronger preference for Labour's broader appeal for change and reform. The Conservative Party's campaign during the 1997 general election primarily focused on economic stability, emphasizing their record on low inflation, interest rates, and unemployment. They also concentrated on issues of law and order, portraying themselves as the party of traditional values and national security while warning against the risks of Labour's proposed changes. The Conservative Party's emphasis on economic stability and traditional values during the 1997 general election failed to address widespread voter dissatisfaction with their long tenure, leading many to embrace Labour's vision for reform and change. The Labour Party's campaign in the 1997 general election focused on presenting themselves as a new Labour, committed to modernising the country with promises to improve public services like healthcare and education while maintaining the economy. They also emphasised policies such as introducing a minimum wage and tackling unemployment, appealing to a broad spectrum of voters seeking change after years of Conservative rule. Labour's New Labour campaign, with its focus on modernising public services, introducing a minimum wage, and addressing unemployment while maintaining fiscal responsibility, resonated with voters eager for change after the lengthy Conservative rule, contributing to their overwhelming victory. The Liberal Democrats' campaign during the 1997 general election centred on a strong commitment to improving education through increased funding, supported by a proposed tax rise. They also emphasized the need for constitutional reforms, such as proportional representation and devolution, alongside a focus on environmental issues and civil liberties. Despite their strong focus on education reform, constitutional changes, and environmental issues, the Liberal Democrats' campaign did not capture as much voter support in the 1997 general election, overshadowed by Labour's broader appeal for comprehensive change and reform. The salient issues during the 1997 general election included the state of public services, particularly healthcare and education, with concern over their decline under the Conservative Party, economic management, unemployment, and the desire for political change after 18 years of Conservative governance also played a crucial role in shaping voter preferences. The salient issues of public service decline, economic management, and the desire for change after 18 years of Conservative rule drove voter preferences in the 1997 general election, leading to a decisive victory for Labour as they addressed these concerns with promises of reform and improvement. The outcome of the 2019 general election had a varied impact on the three main parties. The Conservative Party received 44% of the votes, winning 365 seats of the 650 seats available. The Labour Party received 32% of the votes, winning 202 seats. The Liberal Democrats received 12% of the votes, winning 11 seats. The outcome of the 2019 general election was impacted by gender, with 31% of men voting for the Labour Party and 46% of men voting for the Conservative Party. Similarly, 35% of women voted for the Labour Party, with 44% of women voting for the Conservative Party. The 2019 election outcome was influenced by gender, as both men and women tended to favour the Conservatives over Labour, reflecting strong support for the Conservative Party's Brexit stance and economic policies. The outcome of the 2019 general election was also impacted by age, with younger voters between the ages of 18 and 24 largely supporting Labour, while older voters over the age of 65 mostly supported the Conservative Party. The 2019 general election results were significantly influenced by age, as younger voters leaned towards Labour's progressive policies, while older voters favoured the Conservatives' commitment to delivering Brexit and maintaining traditional values. The outcome of the 2019 general election was impacted by ethnicity, with 64% of black and minority ethnic voters supporting Labour, while 20% supported the Conservatives. Among white voters, 48% backed the Conservative Party and 29% voted for Labour. Ethnicity played a significant role in shaping the election outcome, with Labour attracting strong support from black and minority ethnic communities, who resonated with their focus on social justice, while the Conservatives drew more support from white voters who were aligned with their Brexit agenda and economic policies. Region had an impact on the outcome of the 2019 general election, as Labour performed well in Greater London and other urban areas, while the Conservatives found stronger support in rural and northern regions, particularly in constituencies that had historically been Labour-safe seats but shifted due to Brexit. The 2019 general election outcome was regionally influenced, with Labour performing better in metropolitan areas due to their emphasis on social issues, and the Conservatives gaining ground in traditionally Labour voting regions by focusing on Brexit and economic stability. Class also influenced the outcome of the 2019 general election, with the working class showing significant support for the Conservative Party, a shift from previous elections largely driven by the party's commitment to Brexit. The middle and upper classes were divided, with many still supporting the Conservatives' economic policies, while Labour struggled to maintain its traditional base among working-class voters. Class played a significant role in the 2019 election, with the Conservatives gaining support from Labour's traditional working-class base, reflecting the changing political landscape. The 2019 general election was impacted by partisanship, particularly with Brexit driving a realignment of traditional party loyalties. Many voters who had previously supported Labour switched to the Conservative Party due to their clear stance on Brexit. Partisan realignment in the 2019 general election saw many voters abandon long-held loyalties, contributing to the Conservative Party's decisive victory under Boris Johnson, who promised to get Brexit done. The Conservative Party's manifesto in the 2019 general election focused on delivering Brexit, promising to get Brexit done by securing a deal and leaving the European Union by the January 2020 deadline. It also emphasised maintaining economic stability, investing in public services like the NHS, and increasing police numbers to address concerns about crime. However, after nearly a decade in power, the Conservative Party's primary focus on Brexit resonated strongly with an electorate tired of delays, which helped them secure significant voter support, particularly in areas that had supported leaving the EU. The Labour Party's manifesto in the 2019 general election centred on a radical agenda to transform the UK, pledging to nationalise key industries, introduce a Green New Deal to combat climate change, and significantly increase public spending on health, education, and social care. It also promised to renegotiate a Brexit deal and put it to a public vote, appealing to voters with a platform focused on social justice, economic reform, and giving the public the final say on Brexit. Labour's manifesto, with its ambitious social and economic reforms, aimed to attract voters seeking substantial change, but it struggled to compete with the clear Brexit stance offered by the Conservatives, leading to a challenging electoral outcome. The Liberal Democrats' manifesto in the 2019 general election focused on stopping Brexit altogether, pledging to revoke Article 50 if they won a majority, and positioning themselves as the party of Remain. They also advocated for increased investment in mental health services, education, and addressing climate change through green policies. The Liberal Democrats' clear anti-Brexit stance and focus on progressive social policies offered a distinct alternative to the major parties. However, their impact in the 2019 election was limited, reflecting the electorate's sharper focus on Brexit and the binary choice between Labour and the Conservatives. The Conservative Party's campaign during the 2019 general election primarily focused on delivering Brexit, emphasizing their commitment to get Brexit done and resolve the ongoing political uncertainty. They also concentrated on maintaining economic stability, investing in the NHS, and increasing police numbers to enhance law and order, while portraying themselves as the party of traditional values and strong leadership. The Conservative Party's emphasis on Brexit and economic stability during the 2019 general election resonated strongly with an electorate frustrated by the delays and divisions over Brexit, leading many voters to support their clear and decisive stance. The Labour Party's campaign in the 2019 general election focused on presenting a vision of transformative change with commitments to nationalise key industries, invest heavily in public services, and implement a Green New Deal to combat climate change. They also emphasised policies like expanding workers' rights, introducing free broadband, and renegotiating a Brexit deal to put it to a public vote. Labour's campaign, with its ambitious social and economic reforms, aimed to appeal to voters seeking significant change. However, it struggled to gain broad traction, as many voters were more focused on the Brexit issue, which the Conservatives had clearly addressed. The Liberal Democrats' campaign during the 2019 general election centred on their strong opposition to Brexit, advocating for Article 50 to be revoked to cancel Brexit altogether. They also emphasised increased investment in education and mental health services, funded by targeted tax increases, and highlighted their commitment to environmental sustainability and civil liberties. Despite their clear anti-Brexit stance and focus on progressive social policies, the Liberal Democrats' campaign struggled to gain significant traction in the 2019 general election, as the electorate was largely focused on the Conservative and Labour positions on Brexit and broader issues. In the 2019 general election, the salient issues included Brexit, the National Health Service, and economic inequality. Brexit was the central concern, with voters focused on the delivery of the UK's departure from the European Union. The NHS also played a significant role, with widespread discussions about funding and service quality. Additionally, economic inequality and concerns about living standards influenced voter preferences. The prominence of these issues shaped voter decisions, contributing to a decisive victory for the Conservative Party as they presented a clear plan to resolve Brexit and emphasised their commitment to increasing NHS funding, while Labour's broader promises for systemic change faced challenges during the focus on Brexit. The outcome of the 1997 general election had a varied impact on the three main parties. The Conservative Party received 30% of the votes, winning 165 seats of the 650 seats available. The Labour Party received 43% of the votes, winning 418 seats. The Liberal Democrats received 16% of the votes, winning 46 seats. The outcome of the 2024 general election was impacted by gender, with 42% of men voting for the Labour Party and 36% of men voting for the Conservative Party. Similarly, 44% of women voted for the Labour Party, with 34% of women voting for the Conservative Party. The 2024 election outcome was influenced by gender, as both men and women leaned towards Labour over the Conservatives, reflecting dissatisfaction with the Conservative government's handling of economic issues and a strong appeal of Labour's promises for reform and investment in public services. The outcome of the 2024 general election was also impacted by age, with 35% of younger voters between the ages of 18 and 34 voting for the Labour Party and 25% of them voting for the Conservative Party. Among older voters above the age of 55, 40% supported the Conservative Party, while 30% supported Labour. The 2024 general election results were significantly influenced by age, with younger voters favouring Labour's progressive policies and calls for social change, whereas older voters tended to prefer the Conservative Party's emphasis on stability and traditional values. Ethnicity played a role in the outcome of the 2024 general election, with 40% of white voters supporting the Conservative Party and 37% supporting Labour. In contrast, 50% of black and minority ethnic voters supported Labour, while only 20% supported the Conservatives. The election outcome was influenced by ethnicity, with Labour gaining stronger support from black and minority ethnic voters who resonated with their focus on social justice and equality, while the Conservatives retained more support among white voters through their focus on economic stability and law and order. Region had an impact on the outcome of the 2024 general election, as 45% of voters in Scotland voted for the Labour Party, with 25% voting for the Conservative Party. In Northern England, 40% of voters supported Labour, while 35% voted for the Conservatives. In Greater London, 50% of voters backed Labour compared to 30% who supported the Conservatives. The 2024 general election outcome was regionally influenced, with Labour performing better in Scotland, Northern England and Greater London due to their promises of regional investment and devolution, while the Conservatives struggled to maintain support in these areas. Class influenced the outcome of the 2024 general election, with 48% of the working class voting for the Labour Party, while 32% voted for the Conservative Party. Among the middle class, 35% voted for Labour and 40% for the Conservatives. The upper class showed 38% support for Labour and 45% for the Conservatives. Class played a significant role in the election, with the working class favouring Labour's commitment to addressing cost of living issues and public service investment, while the middle and upper classes were more divided, with many still supporting the Conservatives' economic policies. The 2024 general election was impacted by partisanship, with signs of partisan de-alignment continuing to be evident. Many traditional Conservative voters, disappointed by recent economic challenges and scandals, shifted their support to Labour or smaller parties, leading to Labour's strong performance under Keir Starmer. Partisan de-alignment in the 2024 general election saw many voters abandoning long-held loyalties, driven by a desire for change and renewed trust in Labour's leadership. The Conservative Party's manifesto in the 2024 general election focused on maintaining economic stability, promising to manage inflation and continue with tax cuts aimed at boosting business and personal incomes. It also emphasized improving national security, promoting traditional values, and furthering deregulation efforts to stimulate growth. However, after 14 years in power, the Conservative Party struggled to resonate with an electorate increasingly concerned about rising costs and public service challenges, contributing to the decline in voter support. The Labour Party's manifesto in the 2024 general election centred on tackling the cost of living crisis, pledging to increase public spending on health, education, and social care, while promising to introduce windfall taxes on energy companies to fund these initiatives. It also emphasized green energy investment, affordable housing, and workers' rights, appealing to a wide spectrum of voters with a platform focused on economic justice and public welfare. Labour's manifesto, with its promises of addressing immediate economic concerns and long-term social reforms, resonated strongly with voters seeking change, leading to their competitive performance in the election. The Liberal Democrats' manifesto in the 2024 general election focused on changing the electoral system, advocating for proportional representation, and pushing for increased funding for mental health services. They also emphasized environmental sustainability, civil liberties, and local government empowerment, positioning themselves as a progressive voice distinct from both Labour and the Conservatives. The Liberal Democrats' focus on democratic reform, mental health, and environmental issues offered a clear alternative, but their impact in the 2024 election was limited, reflecting the electorate's stronger support for the major parties' broader visions for change. The Conservative Party's campaign during the 2024 general election primarily focused on economic management, emphasizing their track record of navigating the country through economic uncertainty, including low unemployment and steady growth. They also concentrated on national security, portraying themselves as the party of traditional values and strong leadership, while warning against the perceived risks of Labour's more progressive agenda. However, the Conservative Party's emphasis on economic management and traditional values during the 2024 general election struggled to connect with an electorate weary of their long tenure, leading many voters to seek an alternative in Labour's promises for renewal and change. The Labour Party's campaign in the 2024 general election focused on presenting a vision of a fairer, greener future, with commitments to tackle the cost of living crisis, invest in public services, and address climate change. They also emphasized policies like raising the minimum wage, expanding workers' rights, and ensuring affordable housing, appealing to voters looking for tangible improvements in their daily lives. Labour's campaign, with its focus on social justice, environmental responsibility, and economic reform, resonated with voters eager for change after more than a decade of Conservative rule, contributing to their strong performance in the election. The Liberal Democrats' campaign during the 2024 general election centered on advocating for electoral reform, including the introduction of proportional representation, as well as increased investment in education and mental health services, funded by targeted tax increases. They also highlighted environmental issues and civil liberties, positioning themselves as a progressive alternative to the major parties. Despite their focus on electoral and educational reforms, as well as their strong stance on environmental protection, the Liberal Democrats' campaign struggled to gain significant traction in the 2024 general election, overshadowed by the competition between Labour and the Conservatives. The salient issues during the 2024 general election included the cost of living crisis, with widespread concern over rising inflation, energy prices, and the affordability of housing under the Conservative government. Other critical issues were the state of the NHS and public services, climate change, and the growing demand for political renewal after more than a decade of Conservative governance. The salient issues of economic challenges, public service strain, and the desire for change after years of Conservative rule shaped voter preferences in the 2024 general election, driving support for Labour as they pledged to address these pressing concerns with bold reforms and investment. The media has a major influence on the turnout of elections. As well as this, the outcome was affected by opinion polls, which are surveys conducted to gather people's views or preferences on political candidates and social issues. As well as this, the outcome was influenced by media bias, which is the skewed presentation of news and information by media outlets, often reflecting particular political, economic, or ideological perspectives. The media plays a vital role in general elections by shaping public perception and influencing voter behavior through the spreading of information, analysis, and commentary. It provides a platform for political parties and candidates to communicate their policies and agendas, frames electoral debates, and highlights key issues and controversies. Media coverage can amplify or diminish the impact of campaign messages, affect public opinion by focusing on particular aspects of the candidates' platforms, and hold politicians accountable through investigative journalism. Additionally, the media's portrayal of candidates and their platforms can significantly sway undecided voters and impact election outcomes, making it crucial in the democratic process. The media has a major impact on general elections by influencing how voters perceive candidates, parties, and key issues through news coverage, opinion pieces, and debate. The media shapes the public's understanding of the election and highlights particular aspects of campaigns. It can amplify certain messages while downplaying others, thus affecting voter priorities and decisions. The media also plays a crucial role in framing the electoral agenda, setting the tone for discussions and providing a platform for public debate. Additionally, the media's portrayal of candidates can sway public opinion, either enhancing or undermining their appeal, ultimately impacting election results by directing the focus of voter attention and shaping the overall narrative of the campaign. During the 1983 general election, the media played a vital role by focusing on the Falklands War and economic issues, which were central to the campaign narratives. This extensive coverage strengthened Margaret Thatcher's image as a strong leader and decisive figure, contributing to the Conservative Party's substantial electoral victory. During the 1983 general election, opinion polls were crucial as they provided insight into the shifting public sentiment regarding the Falklands War and economic policies, helping to shape campaign strategies and voter expectations. Media bias during the 1983 general election was important as it reinforced the Conservative Party's narrative of strong leadership and economic competence, while often underplaying Labour's challenges, which significantly influenced public perception and voting behaviour. Persuasion during the 1983 general election was crucial as it helped the Conservative Party frame their policies on the Falklands War and economic management in a favourable light, effectively swaying undecided voters and solidifying their electoral success. Between the 1983 and 1997 general elections, the media played a significant role in shaping public perception of both major parties by focusing on issues such as economic performance, government scandals, and policy changes. The impact of this media coverage was profound, contributing to a decline in the Conservative Party's popularity and credibility, and leading to Labour's rise under Tony Blair by highlighting their promises for reform and modernisation. Between the 1983 and 1997 general elections, opinion polls were vital as they tracked shifts in public sentiment, revealed growing dissatisfaction with Conservative policies, and provided insights that helped Labour refine their strategies and message to secure a decisive victory. Between the 1983 and 1997 general elections, media bias was crucial in shaping public perception by favouring Labour's reformist agenda and scrutinising the failures of the Conservative government, influencing voter attitudes and contributing to Labour's significant electoral success. Between the 1983 and 1997 general elections, persuasion was important as it enabled Labour to effectively communicate their new, modernising vision and critique the Conservative government's record, successfully shifting voter sentiment and contributing to their landslide victory. During the 1997 general election, the media played a crucial role in amplifying the narrative of New Labour's modernisation and reform agenda while covering the Conservative government scandals and failures. This coverage significantly influenced public opinion, contributing to Labour's overwhelming victory by highlighting their promises of change and capitalising on widespread dissatisfaction with the Conservatives. During the 1997 general election, opinion polls were important as they consistently showed Labour's growing lead over the Conservatives, reinforcing the perception of an inevitable Labour victory and shaping campaign strategies for both parties. During the 1997 general election, media bias was significant as it frequently highlighted the Conservative government's failures and Labour's reformist appeal, which helped sway public opinion in favour of Labour and contributed to their decisive win. During the 1997 general election, persuasion was crucial as Labour effectively showed a vision of modernisation and reform, appealing to voters disappointed with the Conservative government and helping to secure a landslide victory. Between the 1997 and 2019 general elections, the media played a key role in shaping political narratives, from scrutinizing government scandals and policy failures to amplifying emerging issues like Brexit and party leadership controversies. This evolving media landscape significantly impacted public opinion and electoral outcomes, influencing voter perceptions and contributing to shifts in party dominance and political strategy. Between the 1997 and 2019 general elections, opinion polls were crucial for tracking shifts in public sentiment, such as the growing support for Brexit reflected in polls leading up to the 2016 referendum and the subsequent impact on the 2017 and 2019 general elections, informing campaign strategies and forecasting electoral outcomes, which influenced party strategies and voter expectations. Between the 1997 and 2019 general elections, media bias was important as it shaped public perception by favoring certain parties and viewpoints, such as the 2008 financial crisis and its aftermath influenced perceptions of government competence, while during the 2016 Brexit referendum, media bias played a crucial role in framing the debate and shaping the electorate's views, which significantly impacted subsequent elections. Between the 1997 and 2019 general elections, media bias was crucial as it influenced public opinion on key issues, such as the portrayal of the 2008 financial crisis and the framing of Brexit debates, which shaped voter perceptions and significantly impacted electoral outcomes and party strategies. Between the 1997 and 2019 general elections, persuasion was crucial as political campaigns adapted their messaging to address evolving issues like Brexit and economic uncertainty, with Labour's attempts to appeal to voters with promises of social reform and the Conservatives' focus on delivering Brexit and national security, which significantly influenced electoral outcomes. During the 2019 general election, the media played a vital role by amplifying key issues such as Brexit and the controversies surrounding the Conservative government's handling of the NHS and social care. The coverage of these topics, as well as critical reporting on Jeremy Corbyn's leadership and Labour's manifesto, significantly influenced public opinion and contributed to the Conservative Party's decisive victory. During the 2019 general election, opinion polls were important for gauging shifting voter support on critical issues like Brexit and the leadership of Boris Johnson versus Jeremy Corbyn, providing insights that influenced campaign strategies and contributed to the Conservatives' successful focus on delivering Brexit. During the 2019 general election, media bias was significant as it shaped public perception by emphasizing controversies like the Partygate scandal and Brexit, with some media outlets favoring the Conservative government's promise to resolve Brexit and others critiquing the handling of the NHS and social issues, which impacted voter opinions and the overall election result. During the 2019 general election, persuasion was critical as the Conservative Party effectively marketed their strong stance on delivering Brexit and national security in response to voter fatigue and dissatisfaction with ongoing uncertainty, while Labour's struggle to convince voters of its leadership and economic plans played a significant role in the election outcome. Between the 2019 and 2024 general elections, the media played a significant role in shaping public discourse through extensive coverage of issues such as the ongoing effects of Brexit, the cost of living crisis, and controversies surrounding government handling of public services. This coverage influenced voter perceptions and priorities, contributing to shifts in party support and impacting the strategic approaches of both major and minor parties during the electoral campaigns. Between the 2019 and 2024 general elections, opinion polls were crucial in capturing shifts in public sentiment during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic and the cost of living crisis, guiding party strategies and shaping voter expectations by reflecting growing discontent with the Conservative government and rising support for opposition parties. Between the 2019 and 2024 general elections, media bias played a significant role in shaping public perception and political narratives, particularly as coverage influenced voter opinions on key issues like the government's pandemic response, economic challenges, and the handling of Brexit, thereby impacting the overall electoral landscape. Between the 2019 and 2024 general elections, persuasion was crucial as parties sought to sway undecided voters through targeted messaging on critical issues such as the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, economic recovery, and Brexit, with the changing political climate making effective communication strategies more impactful in influencing voter decisions. During the 2024 general election, the media played a pivotal role in shaping public discourse by extensively covering issues such as economic challenges, the climate crisis, and the aftermath of Brexit. Social media platforms amplified these narratives, influencing voter sentiment and engagement, while traditional media outlets were scrutinized for perceived biases, further separating public opinion in a highly charged political environment. During the 2024 general election, opinion polls were crucial in gauging public reaction to key issues like inflation, energy prices, and climate policy, shaping campaign strategies and influencing media narratives in a highly polarized political landscape. During the 2024 general election, media bias played a significant role in shaping public perception as media outlets with distinct political leanings amplified narratives around the economic challenges and climate policies, often influencing voter opinion in a broken political environment. During the 2024 general election, persuasion was crucial as parties leveraged social media and targeted campaigns to sway undecided voters with widespread concerns over the cost of living crisis and climate action, reflecting the separated and urgent nature of the political environment. Conservatism seeks to conserve society as it is and is suspicious of change. Conservatism values pragmatism over ideological thinking, seeking to adapt its values over time according to changes in society. However, new right thinking within conservatism in the 1970s and 1980s challenged much of what conservatism had traditionally stood for. There are many ideas and principles that shape conservatism, including pragmatism, tradition, human imperfection, organic society and state, paternalism, and libertarianism. Pragmatism promotes a flexible approach to society with decisions made based on what works, relating to conservative ideology by valuing practical experience over abstract principles. Pragmatism links with traditional conservatism by valuing practical solutions rooted in experience and gradual evolution over rigid ideology. It connects with One Nation philosophy by promoting policies that balance social cohesion with economic growth, addressing the needs of all societal segments to maintain harmony and stability. Based on the idea of pragmatism, the conservative view on human nature is that humans lack the intellectual ability to understand the realities of the world. Based on the idea of pragmatism, the conservative view on the economy is that there should be a combination of market competition and government regulation, which promotes growth and social stability by creating wealth and funds state welfare. Based on the idea of pragmatism, the conservative view on society is that ideas and principles such as equality and rights are dangerous because they can lead to radical change, which produces worse conditions. Based on the idea of pragmatism, the conservative view on the state is that it should take a pragmatic approach that emphasizes caution and moderation and will introduce necessary changes or reforms without endangering social cohesion or stability. Tradition is the accumulated wisdom of past societies and serves as a connection between generations, relating to conservative ideology by emphasizing the continuity of established practices over radical change. Tradition creates stability by grounding society in established practices that have been proven to work over time. It links with organic change by allowing gradual evolutionary adaptations that respect and build upon past experiences. Tradition enhances human security by providing a sense of continuity and reliability, offering guidance and reassurance in an uncertain world. Based on the idea of tradition, the conservative view on human nature is that individuals are inherently flawed and need the guidance of historical experience to navigate life effectively. Based on the idea of tradition, the conservative view on the economy is that it should use a time-tested system combining free markets with responsible moderation to ensure sustainable wealth. Based on the idea of tradition, the conservative view on society is that social structures and norms, which have evolved over time, should be preserved to maintain order and stability. Based on the idea of tradition, the conservative view on the state is that it should preserve historical practices, cautiously implementing reforms that respect and uphold the continuity of society. Human imperfection is the idea that humans are flawed, which makes them incapable of making good decisions for themselves. There are three aspects of human imperfection, which are psychological, moral, and intellectual imperfection. Psychological imperfection is the idea that humans desire familiarity, safety, and the security of knowing their place in society and need social order instead of liberty. Moral imperfection is the idea that humans naturally act out of self-interest or with unethical motives, often compromising collective well-being with antisocial or criminal behavior. Intellectual perfection is the idea that humans lack the ability to understand the world, resulting in flawed reasoning and misjudgments in decision-making. Based on the idea of human imperfection, the conservative view on human nature is that individuals are inherently flawed and lack the ability to make consistent and good decisions, which means they require external guidance and support. Based on the idea of human imperfection, the conservative view on the economy is that there should be a framework combining market mechanisms with oversight to prevent the excesses of human greed and irrationality, ensuring economic stability. Based on the idea of human imperfection, the conservative view on society is that social hierarchies and established norms are necessary to provide structure and prevent disorder, as individuals are prone to moral and behavioral shortcomings. Based on the idea of human imperfection, the conservative view on the state is that it should play a paternalistic role, providing authority in order to counterbalance human weaknesses and maintaining a stable society. An organic society and state is the idea that the society and state as a whole is more important than any of the individuals in it. Organic society and state links to the belief in authority by emphasizing that a structured hierarchical system is necessary to maintain the stability and function of the collective society, which is seen as more important than individual autonomy. It relates to the belief in hierarchy by reinforcing that a clearly defined social order is essential for the proper functioning of society, with each level contributing to the overall cohesion and efficiency of the state. Organic society and state supports the idea of a cohesive society by asserting that a unified, connected community is stronger and more resilient than a collection of isolated individuals, promoting social harmony and stability. Based on the idea of organic society and state, the conservative view on human nature is that individuals are inherently connected and dependent on a larger social order which supports them. Based on the idea of organic society and state, the conservative view on the economy is that economic activities should serve the collective well-being, balancing individual needs and wants with the needs of the community to ensure overall prosperity. Based on the idea of organic society and state, the conservative view on society is that social institutions and norms should be maintained and respected as they combine individuals into a functioning society. Based on the idea of organic society and state, the conservative view on the state is that it should protect societal cohesion, prioritizing the stability and unity of the collective over individual interests. Paternalism is the power used from above by the state that governs in the interests of the people. Traditional conservatives interpret paternalism as an authoritarian approach where the state has control and makes decisions for individuals, believing that the state knows what is best and should enforce compliance for social order. One Nation conservatives view paternalism as a moral obligation of the wealthy and state to support individuals who cannot care for themselves, ensuring a safety net to promote social cohesion and equality. New right conservatives reject paternalism because they prioritize individual freedom and market mechanisms over state intervention, advocating for minimal government involvement and self-reliance instead of direct moderation or support. Based on the idea of paternalism, the conservative view on human nature is that individuals often require guidance and intervention from the state as they are unable to make well-informed decisions for their own welfare. Based on the idea of paternalism, the conservative view on the economy is that the state should regulate economic activities to protect individuals from the inequalities of a free market, which ensures a balanced and fair distribution of resources. Based on the idea of paternalism, the conservative view on society is that structured intervention from the state is necessary to address social inequalities and support individuals who are unable to provide for themselves, which maintains social harmony. Based on the idea of paternalism, the conservative view on the state is that it should have a guiding role with authoritarian measures to promote the common good and safeguard individuals, which ensures that the interests of society are prioritized over personal freedoms. Libertarianism upholds liberties, seeking to maximize autonomy and free choice. Libertarianism values moral autonomy by advocating for minimal state intervention in personal choices, emphasizing individual freedom and personal responsibility. Economically, libertarianism supports free market capitalism, prioritizing deregulation, privatization, and competition to drive efficiency, innovation, and wealth creation. Based on the idea of libertarianism, the conservative view on human nature is that individuals are able to make rational choices and should be free to act on their own values and preferences. Based on the idea of libertarianism, the conservative view on the economy is that it should be driven by the market with minimal government intervention, allowing competition and entrepreneurship to function and drive economic growth. Based on the idea of libertarianism, the conservative view on society is that it should be organized around voluntary associations and interactions, with individuals free to pursue their own goals without constraints imposed by external authorities. Based on the idea of libertarianism, the conservative view on the state is that it should limit its role to protecting individual rights and enforcing contracts, avoiding unnecessary interference in personal and economic affairs to maximize the autonomy and freedom of individuals. There are three different strands within conservatism, each with different views and tensions. These strands include traditional conservatism, one nation conservatism, and new right conservatism. Traditional conservatism emphasizes a commitment to hierarchical and paternalistic values, advocating for social order, respect for authority, and the belief that established institutions and leadership are essential for maintaining stability and guiding society. The traditional conservative view on human nature is that people are inherently unequal, with some naturally suited to lead and others to follow, which means that there is a need for a social structure where individuals with wisdom and authority guide and protect individuals that are less capable. The traditional conservative view on the economy is that it should make use of social hierarchies, with the wealthy and educated taking on leadership roles in economic management, ensuring that the economy serves the common good while preserving the current systems. The traditional conservative view on society is that a well-ordered society requires clear social roles and responsibilities where individuals respect authority and tradition to ensure social cohesion. The traditional conservative view on the state is that it should uphold social order and protect the interests of all individuals, particularly the most vulnerable, through a stable government. The traditional conservative view on pragmatism is that decision-making should be based on practical wisdom and human experience, where leaders make cautious and moderate changes to preserve stability and avoid radical change. The traditional conservative view on tradition is that it leads to a stable society, with customs and practices passed down through generations, providing a framework for order and continuity, ensuring that the wisdom of the past guides the present. The traditional conservative view on human imperfection is that individuals are inherently flawed, which means that there is the need for strong leadership and established institutions to guide individuals and prevent chaos and disorder. The traditional conservative view on organic society and the state is that society functions as a connected organism where each individual has a specific role to play and the state acts as the guide, ensuring that these roles are maintained for the greater good. The traditional conservative view on paternalism is that individuals in positions of authority have a duty to care for and protect those less capable, making decisions that benefit society as a whole, even if it limits the freedom of individuals for their own well-being. The traditional conservative view on libertarianism is that it is viewed with skepticism, as excessive individualism and personal freedom can undermine social order and the cohesive structures that are necessary for a stable society. One nation conservatism is an adaptation of traditional conservatism that seeks to address the inequalities and social dislocation brought about by capitalism, promoting social cohesion through paternalistic welfare measures and balanced economic policies. The one nation conservative view on human nature is that while people have inherent inequalities, society should try to close the gap between the rich and the poor, bringing a sense of social responsibility among the privileged to ensure that all members of society are supported. The one nation conservative view on the economy is that it should balance free market principles with social welfare policies, where the government intervenes to reduce economic imbalance and promote social cohesion, ensuring that capitalism benefits the entire nation rather than just the elite. The one nation conservative view on society is that it should be inclusive and united, with an emphasis on social cohesion and a commitment to reducing class divisions, ensuring that all citizens have a sense of belonging and responsibility towards each other. The One Nation conservative view on the state is that it should play an active role in regulating the economy and providing welfare, using its authority to maintain social cohesion and prevent class conflict while still upholding traditional values and social order. The One Nation conservative view on pragmatism is that decision-making should adapt to the changes in society and the economy that come from capitalism, where leaders implement reforms that address social inequalities while maintaining stability and national unity. The One Nation conservative view on tradition is that it is important to society, but there should still be gradual social progress, ensuring that traditional values are upheld while ensuring necessary change to keep society cohesive. The One Nation conservative view on human imperfection is that individuals have inherent flaws, which requires strong leadership and the need for social welfare and support systems to help those who are disadvantaged by the inequalities of capitalism. The One Nation conservative view on organic society and the state is that society should function as a single organism, with the state managing the effects of capitalism by promoting social justice and ensuring that all individuals are included in the nation's progress. The One Nation conservative view on paternalism is that it is essential for individuals in power to guide and protect the less fortunate, using their authority to create opportunities and reduce the social divide, even if it requires moderating the freedoms of individuals for the collective good. The One Nation conservative view on libertarianism is that it is approached with caution, as an unchecked emphasis on individualism and personal freedom could worsen social and economic inequalities, which threatens the stability and unity that One Nation conservatism seeks to preserve. The New Right is a political ideology that combines neoliberal economic principles of free markets and minimal state intervention with neoconservative values emphasizing strong authority, social order, and traditional morality. Neoliberalism is primarily focused on promoting free market economics and emphasizing atomistic individualism, advocating for minimal government intervention and maximizing personal freedom and self-reliance in economic and social spheres. The neoliberal view on human nature is that individuals are rational and self-interested, naturally inclined to pursue their own goals and maximize their personal well-being, which means that society functions best when individuals have the freedom to make their own choices without interference. The neoliberal view on the economy is that it should be driven by the free market, where competition, supply, and demand determine the allocation of resources, ensuring efficiency and innovation while minimizing the role of the state in the economy. The neoliberal view on society is that it consists of independent individuals who thrive when they are given the freedom to pursue their own interests, and that social order forms naturally from the interactions of these individuals in a competitive market. The neoliberal view on the state is that its role should be minimal, focused primarily on protecting property rights, enforcing contracts, and maintaining law and order, while refraining from excessive regulation or intervention in the lives of individuals and the functioning of the economy. The neoliberal view on pragmatism is that decision-making should be driven by economic efficiency and market outcomes, where policies are implemented based on their ability to bring about competition and innovation, even if this requires significant change. The neoliberal view on tradition is that it should not prevent progress, as outdated customs and practices can reduce economic growth and personal freedom, with a focus instead on adaptability and openness to change. The neoliberal view on human imperfection is that individuals, while not perfect, are capable of making rational decisions that serve their self-interest, and that these decisions lead to optimal outcomes without the need for external guidance from the state. The neoliberal view on organic society and the state is that society is not a connected organism, but rather a collection of individuals pursuing their own goals, with the state serving a limited role in ensuring that these pursuits occur within the law and respect property rights to support a free market economy. The neoliberal view on paternalism is that it should be minimized, as individuals are best positioned to make decisions about their own lives, and any attempt by the state to guide or protect people is often seen as an unnecessary restriction on personal freedom and the economy. The neoliberal view on libertarianism is that it aligns closely with their principles, embracing the idea that personal freedom and minimal state intervention are essential for a thriving economy and society, and that individuals should have the liberty to make their own choices. Neoconservatism is primarily concerned with preventing social fragmentation by advocating for strict law and order policies and upholding public morality to maintain societal cohesion and traditional values. The neoconservative view on human nature is that individuals have inherent tendencies toward disorder and moral weakness, which means that society requires strong moral guidance and discipline to uphold public morality. The neoconservative view on the economy is that while free market principles are important, they must be balanced with moral considerations and a degree of state intervention to protect traditional values and ensure that economic practices do not contribute to breaking of society. The neoconservative view on society is that it is fragile and must be protected from moral relativity and cultural decline, with a focus on maintaining social cohesion through the reinforcement of shared values and strict law and order. The neoconservative view on the state is that it should play an active role in upholding public morality, enforcing laws, and maintaining order, with a willingness to intervene more forcefully in both social and economic matters to preserve the integrity of the nation and prevent the breakdown of social structures. The neoconservative view on pragmatism is that decision-making should be guided by the need to maintain social order and public morality, where policies are implemented to address the threats of social divide and moral decline, even if this requires limiting certain freedoms. The neoconservative view on tradition is that it is essential for preserving the morals and culture of society, with long-standing customs and practices seen as vital for maintaining stability and a sense of continuity in the face of modern challenges. The neoconservative view on human imperfection is that individuals are prone to moral failures and disorder, which means that there is a need for strong leadership and firm laws to guide behavior and prevent society from breaking. The neoconservative view on organic society and the state is that society functions as a connected organism where each part has a role in maintaining the whole, with the state playing an active role in enforcing moral standards and ensuring that the structures of society remain. The neoconservative view on paternalism is that it is necessary for the state to act as a guardian of public morality and social order, intervening in people's lives when needed to protect society from harmful influences and ensure the common good. The neoconservative view on libertarianism is that it is viewed with caution, as excessive individual freedom and minimal state intervention can lead to reduced moral standards and reduce social cohesion, which neoconservatives see as crucial to the stability and well-being of the nation. There are 5 key thinkers for the conservative ideology. These are Thomas Hobbes, Edmund Burke, Michael Oakeshott, Ayn Rand, and Robert Nozick. Thomas Hobbes was a conservative key thinker with the key theories of order and human nature. Hobbes' theory of order is the idea that an ordered society should balance the human need to lead a free life. Hobbes' theory of human nature is the idea that humans are needy, vulnerable, and easily led astray in attempts to understand the world around them. Hobbes' view on human nature was that humans are naturally selfish, driven by fear, and in constant competition, requiring strong authority to maintain order. Hobbes' view on the economy was that it should be controlled by the state to prevent disorder and maintain social stability. Hobbes' view on society was that it is inherently chaotic and requires a powerful authority to impose order and prevent violence. Hobbes' view on the state was that it must be definite, have ultimate political and legal power to provide security and prevent the anarchy of the state of nature. Hobbes' view on pragmatism was that practical considerations of security and order should guide political decisions rather than the ideas of freedom or equality. Hobbes' view on tradition was that it establishes authority and social structures that are crucial for maintaining order. Hobbes' view on human imperfection was that humans are fundamentally flawed, requiring strong control to prevent their destructive instincts from leading to chaos. Hobbes' view on organic society and state was that a strong, unified state is necessary to hold society together and prevent society from falling into chaos. Hobbes' view on paternalism was that the state must guide and control its citizens to protect them from their own dangerous impulses. Hobbes' view on libertarianism was dismissive, as he believed that unchecked individual freedom would inevitably lead to conflict and the breakdown of society. Edmund Burke was a conservative key thinker with the key theories of change, tradition, and empiricism. Burke's theory of change is the idea that political change should be implemented with caution and be organic. Burke's theory of tradition and empiricism is the idea that practices passed down for generations should be respected. Burke's view on human nature was that humans are inherently flawed, limited in reason, and driven by passions, making them reliant on tradition and authority for guidance. Burke's view on the economy was that it should be based on private property and free markets, but regulated by moral and social obligations. Burke's view on society was that it is a complex and organic entity built on shared values, traditions, and institutions that should be preserved. Burke's view on the state was that it is a necessary institution that should be strong enough to maintain order but also respect the accumulated wisdom of tradition. Burke's view on pragmatism was that political decisions should be guided by practical experience and historical context rather than abstract theories or radical change. Burke's view on tradition was that it is the accumulated wisdom of past generations and should be preserved as it provides stability and continuity. Burke's view on human imperfection was that humans are imperfect and flawed, requiring the guidance of tradition, authority, and established institutions to maintain a stable society. Burke's view on organic society and state was that society is an organic whole, where each part plays a role in maintaining the health and stability of the entire system. Burke's view on paternalism was that the state and social institutions have a duty to guide and protect individuals, particularly in maintaining moral and social order. Burke's view on libertarianism was critical, as he believed that excessive individualism could undermine the society and lead to chaos and instability. Michael Oakeshott was a conservative key thinker with the key theories of human imperfection and pragmatism. Oakeshott's theory of human imperfection suggests that society is unpredictable and humans are imperfect. Oakeshott's theory of pragmatism is the idea that decisions should be made based on what works. Oakeshott's view on human nature was that humans are inherently limited in their understanding and capabilities, making them prone to error and requiring guidance. Oakeshott's view on the economy was that it should develop organically without heavy intervention, respecting established practices and traditions. Oakeshott's view on society was that it is a complex and evolves slowly, shaped by the accumulated experiences of generations. Oakeshott's view on the state was that it should preserve order and tradition and avoid large schemes for social planning. Oakeshott's view on pragmatism was that political decisions should be made based on what works, focusing on maintaining stability rather than pursuing ideological goals. Oakeshott's view on tradition was that it is essential for providing continuity and stability in society, as it includes the collective wisdom of past generations. Oakeshott's view on human imperfection was that humans are naturally flawed and must rely on established practices and institutions to navigate the uncertainties of life. Oakeshott's view on organic society and state was that society should be seen as an organic entity evolving naturally over time and resistant to radical change. Oakeshott's view on paternalism was that the state has a role in guiding individuals and maintaining social order, but should do so with a light touch, respecting individual autonomy. Oakeshott's view on libertarianism was skeptical, as he believed that too much individual freedom could lead to instability and the erosion of social cohesion. Ayn Rand was a conservative key thinker with the key theories of objectivism and freedom. Rand's theory of objectivism supports the virtues of rational self-interest. Rand's theory of freedom supports a pure, laissez-faire capitalist economy. Rand's view on human nature was that humans are rational beings who has the aim to pursue their own happiness. Rand's view on the economy was that it should be entirely free from government interference, operating on the principles of laissez-faire capitalism, which is an economic system where the government minimizes its intervention, allowing businesses and markets to operate freely based on supply and demand. Rand's view on society was that it should be a collection of individuals pursuing their own self-interest with minimal collective obligations. Rand's view on the state was that it should only protect individual rights, particularly property rights, through the military, police, and courts. Rand's view on pragmatism was negative, as she believed in philosophical principles rather than using practical solutions. Rand's view on tradition was dismissive, as she thought it would prevent progress and individual freedom. Rand's view on human imperfection was that while humans are capable of errors, they have the capacity for reason and can achieve great things through rational thought. Rand's view on organic society and state was that society should not be seen as an organic whole, but as a collection of independent individuals, each with their own goals and values. Rand's view on paternalism was strongly opposed, as she believed it goes against individual freedom and autonomy. Rand's view on libertarianism was largely supportive, as she supported minimal state intervention and maximum individual liberty, although she rejected the libertarian label due to her support of rational self-interest. Robert Nozick was a conservative key thinker with the key theories of libertarianism and self-ownership. Nozick's theory of libertarianism is the idea that individuals in society cannot be treated as a thing or used against their will as a resource. Nozick's theory of self-ownership is the idea that individuals own their bodies, talents, abilities, and labor. Nozick's view on human nature was that humans are independent and capable of making rational decisions for themselves. Nozick's view on the economy was that it should be free from state intervention, allowing individuals to make voluntary exchanges and maintain property rights. Nozick's view on society was that there should be cooperation among free individuals with minimal collective obligations imposed by the state. Nozick's view on the state was that it should be limited to protecting individuals from force, theft, and fraud, and enforcing contracts. Nozick's view on pragmatism was that political and moral principles should not be compromised for practical considerations, emphasizing individual rights. Nozick's view on tradition was not a central focus, but he generally supported practices that respect individual freedom and voluntary association. Nozick's view on human imperfection was that while humans are capable of error, this does not justify control by the state, and individuals should be free to make their own choices. Nozick's view on organic society and state was that society should not be seen as an organic whole, but rather as a collection of independent persons with their own rights and goals. Nozick's view on paternalism was strongly opposed, as he believed that individuals should be free to make their own choices, even if those choices are perceived as harmful by others. Nozick's view on libertarianism was that it is the most just and ethical political system, as it respects individual rights and limits the power of the state to its most essential functions. Liberalism is seen essentially as a product of the Enlightenment, as it recognizes that humans are rational creatures capable of understanding the world and making decisions for themselves. The defining feature of liberalism is its belief in individualism and freedom. There are many ideas and principles that shape liberalism, including individualism, freedom and liberty, the state, rationalism, equality and social justice, and liberal democracy. Individualism is the idea that the rights and needs of each person are more important than the interests of any group or organization. There are two types of individualism, which are egoistical individualism and developmental individualism. Egoistical individualism is the belief that individuals should prioritize their own self-interest and personal gain above anything else. Developmental individualism emphasizes the growth and development of each individual, advocating for a society that supports individuals in achieving their full potential. Based on the idea of individualism, the liberal view on human nature is that individuals are rational beings capable of making their own decisions and pursuing their own interests. Based on the idea of individualism, the liberal view on the economy is that a free market driven by individual choices and competition is the best way to promote innovation, efficiency, and economic success. Based on the idea of individualism, the liberal view on society is that each person should have the freedom to express themselves and pursue their own goals, with society existing to protect these individual rights and freedoms. Based on the idea of individualism, the liberal view on the state is that it should have limited power, serving primarily to protect individual rights and freedoms while allowing individuals the autonomy to govern their own lives without interference. Freedom and liberty is the ability and right of an individual to make decisions in their own interests. Liberals guarantee individual freedom by advocating for limited government intervention and protecting civil liberties. The link between freedom and individualism lies in the belief that personal autonomy and self-expression are essential for individuals to realize their full potential. Freedom is under the law, meaning that individuals have the right to act the way they want, as long as they do not infringe on the rights and freedoms of others, ensuring that laws exist to protect everyone's liberties. Based on the idea of freedom and liberty, the liberal view on human nature is that individuals are inherently rational and capable of making decisions that best serve their own interests. Based on the idea of freedom and liberty, the liberal view on the economy is that a free market allows individuals to pursue their economic goals, leading to innovation and success through voluntary exchange. Based on the idea of freedom and liberty, the liberal view on society is that individuals should have the autonomy to live according to their own values and beliefs, with society structured to protect these personal freedoms. Based on the concept of freedom and liberty, the liberal view on the state is that its primary role is to protect individual rights and freedoms, ensuring that government intervention is minimal and only to prevent harm to others. The liberal view on the state is that it is necessary to avoid disorder, but it has the potential to remove individuals' liberties, so it should be limited. Based on the idea of the state, the liberal view on human nature is that individuals are rational and capable of making their own decisions, requiring minimal state interference. Based on the idea of the state, the liberal view on the economy is that the free market encourages economic activity, with the state intervening to prevent market failures or protect individual rights. Based on the idea of the state, the liberal view on society is that it should be organized to maximize individual freedom and autonomy, with social structures in place to support and protect personal liberties. Based on the idea of the state, the liberal view on the state is that its powers should be limited and clearly defined, ensuring that it provides order and security without infringing on individual freedoms. Rationalism is the belief that humans are rational creatures that are capable of reason and logic. Rationalism explains an individual's ability to define their own best interests by trusting that people can use reason and logic to make informed decisions that benefit their well-being. Rationalism supports an individual's ability to make their own moral choices, believing that humans can decide right from wrong through logical reasoning rather than external authority. Rationalism contributes to creating a progressive society by encouraging the use of reason and evidence-based thinking to challenge outdated norms and encourage social, political, and economic advancements. Based on the idea of rationalism, the liberal view on human nature is that individuals are inherently rational and capable of making reasoned decisions in their own best interests. Based on the idea of rationalism, the liberal view on the economy is that individuals will make logical choices that lead to innovation, efficiency, and overall economic success when free to engage in market activities. Based on the idea of rationalism, the liberal view on society is that social progress is achieved through using reason and logic, allowing individuals to challenge outdated norms and create a more just and fair society. Based on the idea of rationalism, the liberal view on the state is that it should be limited, intervening when necessary to protect individual rights and ensure that all members of society can exercise their rational abilities freely. Equality and social justice is the belief that all individuals are of equal value and that they should be treated impartially and fairly by society. Foundational equality is the belief that all individuals are inherently equal, as they are all human and deserve equal moral worth and rights. Formal equality is the principle that all individuals should be treated equally under the law without discrimination or favoritism. Equality of opportunity is the idea that everyone should have the same chances to succeed, with no barriers based on background, ensuring that personal effort and talent determine an individual's outcome. Based on the idea of equality and social justice, the liberal view on human nature is that all individuals have equal value and should be given equal respect and consideration. Based on the idea of equality and social justice, the liberal view on the economy is that it should be structured to provide fair opportunities for all, ensuring that economic policies do not benefit certain groups more than others. Based on the idea of equality and social justice, the liberal view on society is that it should eliminate discrimination and ensure that all members are treated impartially and fairly, promoting inclusive practices and social equality. Based on the idea of equality and social justice, the liberal view on the state is that it should actively enforce laws and policies that uphold equal treatment and fairness, working to correct social inequalities and protect the rights of every individual. Liberal democracy is a democracy that balances the will of the people as shown through elections with limited government and a respect for civil liberties in society. Liberals support liberal democracy because it ensures that the will of the people is expressed through elections while ensuring individual freedoms and limiting government power to prevent tyranny. Liberals are concerned about liberal democracy because they fear that the will of the majority could potentially infringe on minority rights and civil liberties if they are not checked by institutional safeguards. Based on the idea of liberal democracy, the liberal view on human nature is that individuals are rational and capable of making informed choices, which is reflected in the democratic process where their votes determine the government. Based on the idea of liberal democracy, the liberal view on the economy is that a free market should operate with regulations that protect individual rights, ensuring economic opportunities while maintaining fair competition. Based on the idea of liberal democracy, the liberal view on society is that it should be organized to uphold civil liberties and ensure that all individuals have equal protection and respect, promoting a fair and inclusive community. Based on the idea of liberal democracy, the liberal view on the state is that it should be limited to prevent an overuse of power with a system of checks and balances to ensure personal freedoms and ensure that government actions are accountable to the people. There are two strands within liberalism, each with different views and tensions. These strands include classical liberalism and modern liberalism. Classical liberalism was formed by early liberals who believed that individual freedom would be best achieved with the state playing a minimal role. The classical liberal view on human nature is that individuals are inherently rational and capable of making their own decisions, which justifies the belief that people should have the freedom to pursue their own interests. The classical liberal view on the economy is that it functions best with minimal state interference, allowing free markets and individual enterprise to drive innovation, efficiency, and wealth creation. The classical liberal view on society is that it should be organized around the principle of individual liberty, where people are free to live as they choose as long as they do not harm others, which leads to a diverse and dynamic social order. The classical liberal view on the state is that its role should be limited to protecting individual rights and maintaining order with minimal intervention in the lives of individuals. The classical liberal view on individualism is that each person is a rational and autonomous being who should be free to pursue their own interests and goals without interference from others or the state. The classical liberal view on freedom and liberty is that true freedom means leaving individuals alone to make their own choices with minimal restrictions, allowing individuals to live the way they want as long as they do not harm others. The classical liberal view on the state is that its role should be strictly limited to protecting individuals from harm, ensuring that their rights are respected and maintaining order while avoiding unnecessary involvement in the personal lives and economic activities of individuals. The classical liberal view on rationalism is that individuals are capable of using reason and logic to make decisions that are in their best interests, which supports the belief that people should have the freedom to make decisions themselves. The classical liberal view on equality and social justice is that all individuals should have the same legal rights and opportunities, but the state should not enforce equality of outcome, as this would interfere with personal freedom and the natural differences between individuals. The classical liberal view on liberal democracy is that a government should be based on the consent of the people, with regular elections and checks on power, ensuring that the state remains limited and respects individual rights and freedoms. Modern liberalism emerged as a reaction against free market capitalism, believing this had led to many individuals not being free. Modern liberals had the belief that freedom could no longer simply be defined as a being left alone. The modern liberal view on human nature is that individuals may face social and economic barriers that prevent them from realizing their full potential, which means that there is a need for support systems to ensure true freedom. The modern liberal view on the economy is that it should be regulated to reduce the inequalities and injustices created by free market capitalism, ensuring that economic policies serve the common good and provide opportunities for all. The modern liberal view on society is that a fair society requires active measures to promote equality and protect individual rights, recognizing that true freedom involves not just the absence of interference, but also the conditions that enable all individuals to grow and develop. The modern liberal view on the state is that it should play an active role in ensuring social justice and economic fairness, intervening when necessary to protect the rights and freedoms of individuals, particularly the most vulnerable. The modern liberal view on individualism is that individuals require certain social and economic conditions to truly be free, which means that society must sometimes intervene to ensure everyone has the opportunity to grow and develop. The modern liberal view on freedom and liberty is that true freedom is not just the absence of interference, but also the presence of opportunities, which requires actions from the state to remove barriers and create conditions where all individuals can fully participate in society. The modern liberal view on the state is that it should take an active role in regulating the economy and providing social welfare to correct the inequalities and injustices that come from free market capitalism, ensuring that everyone has a fair chance to succeed. The modern liberal view on rationalism is that individuals may face obstacles that limit their ability to act on their rational decisions, so the state must help create an environment where rational choices can lead to real freedom. The modern liberal view on equality and social justice is that achieving true equality requires more than just equal legal rights, as it requires proactive measures to address social and economic inequalities, ensuring that all individuals have the resources and support they need to achieve their potential. The modern liberal view on liberal democracy is that democracy should protect individual rights and freedoms, as well as ensure that the government works to promote social justice and reduce inequalities, making sure that all voices are heard and that everyone in society is free. There are 5 key thinkers for the liberal ideology. These are John Locke, Mary Wollstonecraft, John Stuart Mill, John Rawls, and Betty Friedan. John Locke was a liberal key thinker with the key theories of social contract theory and limited government. Locke's social contract theory is the idea that society, the state, and the government are based on a voluntary agreement where the people accept certain rules and obligations in exchange for protection of their rights. Locke's theory of limited government is the idea that the government should be limited and based on the consent of the people. John Locke's view on human nature was that humans are inherently rational, capable of cooperation, and have natural rights to life, liberty, and property that must be respected. Locke's view on the economy was that it should be based on private property and free exchange, with minimal state interference, as individuals have the right to purchase and own property through their labor. Locke's view on society was that it is formed by individuals coming together to protect their natural rights, with social contracts ensuring mutual respect and cooperation. Locke's view on the state was that it exists to protect individual rights and its power should be limited, gaining legitimacy only from the consent of the people. Locke's view on individualism was that each person has inherent worth and autonomy, with the right to pursue their own happiness and interests as long as they do not infringe on the rights of other individuals. Locke's view on freedom and liberty was that true freedom means living under laws that protect an individual's natural rights, with individuals free to act as they choose within these boundaries. Locke's view on rationalism was that humans are capable of reason, which allows them to find moral truths and create fair societies. Locke's view on equality and social justice was that all individuals are equal in their natural rights, deserving equal protection under the law and equal opportunity to pursue their interests. Locke's view on liberal democracy was that government should be representative and accountable to the people, ensuring that the state upholds the rule of law, protects individual rights, and serves the common good. Mary Wollstonecraft was a liberal key thinker with the key theories of reason and formal equality. Wollstonecraft's theory of reason is the idea that everyone, including women, are rational and independent beings that are capable of reason. Wollstonecraft's theory of formal equality is the idea that in order to be free, women should enjoy full civil liberties and be allowed to have a career. Mary Wollstonecraft's view on human nature was that all humans, regardless of gender, are capable of reason and moral decision-making and should be educated to fully reach their potential. Wollstonecraft's view on the economy was that it should provide equal opportunities for both men and women, with women being allowed to participate in the economy to achieve independence and self-sufficiency. Wollstonecraft's view on society was that it should be restructured to remove the inequalities that keep women inferior, promoting a culture of equal rights and mutual respect. Wollstonecraft's view on the state was that it has a responsibility to protect the rights of all individuals, including women, and to create laws that ensure equality and justice across genders. Wollstonecraft's view on individualism was that true individualism can only be achieved when both men and women are free to develop their own identities and pursue their own goals without social constraints. Wollstonecraft's view on freedom and liberty was that real freedom involves more than just political rights, as it requires social and economic structures that allow women to live as free and equal citizens. Wollstonecraft's view on rationalism was that women, like men, are capable of rational thought and should be educated to use reason to make informed choices in both public and private life. Wollstonecraft's view on equality and social justice was that society must ensure equal rights and opportunities for women, correcting the injustices that come from fixed gender roles. Wollstonecraft's view on liberal democracy was that a truly democratic society must include the voices of women, ensuring that they have equal representation and participation in government to create an equal society for all. John Stuart Mill was a key liberal thinker with the key theories of the harm principle and tolerance. Mill's harm principle is the idea that individuals should be free to do anything except harm other individuals. Mill's theory of tolerance is the belief that a popular view is not necessarily correct. John Stuart Mill's view on human nature was that humans are capable of personal growth and self-improvement, driven by the pursuit of happiness and the development of their intellectual and moral abilities. Mill's view on the economy was that it should balance individual freedom with social welfare, supporting free markets while also recognizing the need for state intervention to prevent harm and ensure fair opportunities for all. Mill's view on society was that it should promote diversity of thought and lifestyle, allowing individuals to experiment with different ways of living, which in turn leads to a more progressive community. Mill's view on the state was that it should protect individual liberties, only intervening to prevent harm to others while allowing individuals the freedom to pursue their own paths. Mill's view on individualism was that each person should have the autonomy to develop their own character and pursue their own happiness, as long as their actions do not harm others. Mill's view on freedom and liberty was that true liberty means the ability for an individual to act the way that they want, without being constrained by social norms or government interference, except when an individual's actions harm another individual. Mill's view on rationalism was that humans are rational beings who should be encouraged to think critically and independently, as this leads to personal and social progress. Mill's view on equality and social justice was that society must aim for both legal and social equality, ensuring that everyone has the same opportunities to succeed and that injustices are addressed. Mill's view on liberal democracy was that it should be a system that protects individual rights and encourages active participation and debate, ensuring that diverse opinions are heard and that the government remains accountable to the people. John Rawls was a key liberal thinker with the key theories of justice and the veil of ignorance. Rawls' theory of justice is the idea that society must be fair and guarantee each citizen a life worth living. Rawls' theory of the veil of ignorance is the idea that individuals agree on the type of society that they want, but lack the knowledge of their own position in society. John Rawls' view on human nature was that while individuals are rational and self-interested, they are also capable of fairness and cooperation when placed behind a veil of ignorance which ensures impartiality. Rawls' view on the economy was that it should be structured to benefit the disadvantaged, ensuring a fair distribution of wealth and opportunities. Rawls' view on society was that it should be organized according to the theory of justice that everyone would agree to under fair conditions, promoting both freedom and equality. Rawls' view on the state was that it should be neutral, ensuring that laws and institutions are designed to uphold justice and protecting individual rights while also addressing social inequalities. Rawls' view on individualism was that while individuals should be free to pursue their own goals in a system that ensures fairness and equality for all members of society, Rawls' view on freedom and liberty was that true liberty includes the conditions for individuals to pursue their own idea of the good life by ensuring that everyone has equal basic liberties. Rawls' view on rationalism was that individuals would use reason to choose principles of justice that ensure fairness and equality for all. Rawls' view on equality and social justice was that society must be structured so that inequalities are only acceptable if they benefit the disadvantaged, ensuring a fair distribution of resources and opportunities. Rawls' view on liberal democracy was that it should be a system where institutions and laws are designed to reflect the principles of justice and ensure that all individuals have equal rights and opportunities while encouraging a fair and just society. Betty Friedan was a key liberal thinker with the key theories of legal equality and equal opportunity. Friedan's theory of legal equality is the idea that women are as capable as men and that harsh laws and social views must be removed. Friedan's theory of equal opportunity is the idea that women are being held back from their potential because of the limited number of jobs that are acceptable for women, and women should therefore have the same opportunities as men to get a job. Betty Friedan's view on human nature was that women possess individual desires for self-fulfillment, which is prevented by traditional gender roles that confine them to the household. Friedan's view on the economy was that it should provide equal opportunities for women to participate in the workforce, allowing them to achieve financial independence and personal growth. Friedan's view on society was that it maintains limiting stereotypes about women's roles, which must be challenged to create a more just and equal environment where both men and women can pursue their ambitions without social constraints. Friedan's view on the state was that it should create and enforce laws that protect women's rights, ensuring equal opportunities in education, employment, and other areas to achieve gender equality. Friedan's view on individualism was that true fulfillment for women comes from pursuing their own goals and interests, separate from the roles traditionally assigned to them by society. Friedan's view on freedom and liberty was that women should have the freedom to choose their own paths in life without being limited by social expectations. Friedan's view on rationalism was that women are fully capable of making informed decisions about their lives, and that they should be encouraged to develop and use their intellectual abilities to their fullest potential. Friedan's view on equality and social justice was that achieving gender equality requires removing barriers that prevent women from having the same opportunities as men, which will create a society where both genders are treated fairly and can equally contribute. Friedan's view on liberal democracy was that it should guarantee equal rights and opportunities for women, ensuring that they have a voice in shaping the laws and policies that affect their lives, which will create an inclusive and equal society. Socialism is defined by its opposition to capitalism. It aims to provide a clear alternative that is more humane and based on collectivism, not individualism, cooperation, not competition, and social equality, not inequality. There is a wide variety of traditions within socialism with the goal of abolishing or minimizing class division. There are many ideas and principles that shape socialism, including collectivism, common humanity, equality, social class, and workers' control. Collectivism is the idea that collective human effort has more value to the economy and society than the effort of individuals. Based on the idea of collectivism, the socialist view on human nature is that individuals are inherently cooperative and realize their potential through collective action and shared goals. Based on the idea of collectivism, the socialist view on the economy is that it should be structured around shared ownership and collective management to ensure equal distribution and prevent exploitation. Based on the idea of collectivism, the socialist view on society is that it should be organized to enable unity, social responsibility, and common welfare, with community interests placed above individual ambitions. Based on the idea of collectivism, the socialist view on the state is that it should actively intervene to promote collective ownership, social equality, and the common good by removing class structures and redistributing resources. Common humanity is the belief that humans are social beings who are naturally cooperative, social, and rational, with individual identity and behavior shaped by the social context they exist in. Based on the idea of common humanity, the socialist view on human nature is that individuals are inherently cooperative and capable of solidarity, with their behavior shaped by the social conditions they experience. Based on the idea of common humanity, the socialist view on the economy is that it should be organized around collective ownership and cooperation to meet the needs of all, reflecting the connection of people within society. Based on the idea of common humanity, the socialist view on society is that it should be built on principles of equality and mutual support, acknowledging that individual fulfillment is linked to the well-being of the community. Based on the idea of common humanity, the socialist view on the state is that it should actively ensure social unity and collective welfare, ensuring conditions that enable everyone to thrive equally. Equality is the idea that wealth and power should be redistributed to ensure fairness and justice, and all individuals have equal worth and potential. Based on the idea of equality, the socialist view on human nature is that individuals are inherently cooperative and thrive where there is social and economic justice. Based on the idea of equality, the socialist view on the economy is that wealth and resources should be equally distributed to remove exploitation and ensure that all individuals have equal access to the resources. Based on the idea of equality, the socialist view on society is that it should be organized to promote unity, collective responsibility, and the common good, recognizing that true freedom comes from social equality. Based on the idea of equality, the socialist view on the state is that it should remove class structures and creating a fair society by redistributing wealth and ensuring equal opportunities for all individuals. Social class is the idea that people within society are divided into groups that share the same social and economic status. Based on the idea of social class, the socialist view on human nature is that individuals are shaped by their social and economic conditions and their potential is prevented by the class structure they live in. Based on the idea of social class, the socialist view on the economy is that it is dominated by class divisions where the ruling class exploits the working class, which means that the economy needs to be restructured to ensure a fair distribution of resources. Based on the idea of social class, the socialist view on society is that it is divided by inequalities from class differences, which must be removed to achieve social cohesion and justice. Based on the idea of social class, the socialist view on the state is that it is used by the ruling class to maintain its dominance and should be reformed or replaced to represent the interests of all classes, especially the working class. Workers' control is the idea that workers should have democratic control over the economy and the state, ensuring decision-making power over production and resources, which is achieved through mechanisms such as cooperatives, trade unions, and active involvement in decision-making. Based on the idea of workers' control, the socialist view on human nature is that individuals are empowered and fulfill their potential when they participate in the decisions that affect their work and lives. Based on the idea of workers' control, the socialist view on the economy is that it should be democratically managed by workers, allowing them to have a say in how resources are allocated and production is organized to remove exploitation. Based on the idea of workers' control, the socialist view on society is that it should be structured to allow collective decision-making and ensure that all members have a voice in shaping social and economic policies. Based on the idea of workers' control, the socialist view on the state is that it should support democratic control by workers over economic and political institutions, promoting self-management and the equal distribution of power. There are three strands within socialism, each with different views and tensions. These strands include revolutionary socialism, social democracy, and third-way socialism. Revolutionary socialism is the belief that socialism can only be achieved by overthrowing the existing political and social structures, often involving radical and fundamental change led by the working class. The revolutionary socialist view on human nature is that individuals are oppressed by capitalist structures and true human potential can only be realized through collective action to overthrow these systems. The revolutionary socialist view on the economy is that it must be entirely restructured by removing capitalist means of production and replacing them with a system based on communal ownership and the equal distribution of resources. The revolutionary socialist view on society is that it must be transformed to remove class divisions and create a community based on solidarity, cooperation, and equality. The revolutionary socialist view on the state is that it should be overthrown and replaced with a workers' state that represents the interests of the majority and removes the existing power structures that uphold inequality and exploitation. The revolutionary socialist view on collectivism is that true social progress can only be achieved through the collective efforts of the working class to overthrow capitalist structures and build a society based on shared ownership and mutual support. The revolutionary socialist view on common humanity is that all people share a nature that drives them towards cooperation and solidarity, which is suppressed under capitalism but can flourish once the existing oppressive systems are removed. The revolutionary socialist view on equality is that real equality requires the complete overthrow of the capitalist system, which will remove inequality and establish a society where wealth and power are equally distributed among all individuals. The revolutionary socialist view on social class is that society is divided into classes, with the working class oppressed by the ruling capitalist class, and that class struggle must result in the overthrow of capitalist structures to achieve true social justice. The revolutionary socialist view on workers' control is that the workers must seize control of the economy and the state through revolutionary means, ensuring that production and government are managed by the people that work to run them. Social democracy seeks to humanize capitalism by implementing social and economic reforms such as welfare policies and regulation to promote social justice and reduce inequality in a market-based economy. The social democratic view on human nature is that individuals could flourish in a capitalist framework when there are social protections and opportunities for personal development. The social democratic view on the economy is that it should be regulated to prevent exploitation and inequality, while still allowing for private enterprise and market competition to drive growth and innovation. The social democratic view on society is that it should be inclusive and supportive, promoting social justice and reducing inequalities through welfare policies and public services. The social democratic view on the state is that it should play an active role in ensuring social welfare and economic fairness, using democracy to balance individual freedom with collective responsibility. The social democratic view on collectivism is that social progress can be achieved through a balance of individual rights and collective welfare, using democracy to promote shared goals and mutual support within capitalism. The social democratic view on common humanity is that all people have the ability to cooperate and be compassionate, which should be encouraged by social policies that promote equality in community. The social democratic view on equality is that it can be achieved in a capitalist system through progressive taxation, social welfare, and public services that ensure fair opportunities for all individuals. The social democratic view on social class is that class divisions can be removed through reforms and redistribution policies that reduce economic inequality and promote social mobility. The social democratic view on workers' control is that workers should have a voice in economic decisions through mechanisms such as collective bargaining, trade unions, and participation in the management of businesses without necessarily removing private ownership. Third-way socialism is a political approach that seeks a middle ground between traditional socialism and free market capitalism by advocating for a mixed economy that combines market efficiency with social welfare and government intervention to promote social justice. The third-way socialist view on human nature is that individuals seek both personal success and social justice, and their potential can be realized through a balance of self-reliance and community support. The third-way socialist view on the economy is that it should make use of the free market while being regulated to ensure social fairness, environmental sustainability, and protection for the most vulnerable. The third-way socialist view on society is that it should embrace both individual freedom and social responsibility, creating a sense of community through inclusive policies and opportunities for all individuals. The third-way socialist view on the state is that it should provide a framework for economic growth and innovation while ensuring social welfare and reducing inequalities through targeted interventions. The third-way socialist view on collectivism is that social progress is best achieved through a combination of individual initiative and collective support, where the state and private sector work together to promote shared goals and mutual responsibility. The third-way socialist view on common humanity is that people are driven by both self-interest and a desire for social cohesion, which can be balanced through policies that encourage both personal success and community welfare. The third-way socialist view on equality is that real equality can be pursued in a market framework by providing equal opportunities and addressing social inequalities through targeted social investments and welfare measures. The third-way socialist view on social class is that class distinctions can be reduced by implementing reforms that promote social mobility, reduce poverty, and create a more inclusive society. The third-way socialist view on workers' control is that workers should have a say in their workplaces through partnerships, employee participation schemes, and strong labor rights, without removing the foundations of a market economy. There are 6 key thinkers for the socialist ideology. These are Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Beatrice Webb, Rosa Luxemburg, Anthony Crosland, and Anthony Giddens. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were socialist key thinkers with the key theories of the centrality of social class and humans as social beings. Marx and Engels' theory of the centrality of social class is the idea that historical materialism positions the class struggle as the fundamental force in society, resulting in the development of revolutionary class consciousness that leads to the working class overthrowing the capitalist system. Marx and Engel's theory of humans as social beings is the idea that human nature is shaped by social conditions and that true common humanity can only be fully realized under communism, where class divisions and exploitation are abolished. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engel's view on human nature was that humans are inherently productive and cooperative, shaped by their social conditions and capable of realizing their true potential only in a classless society. Marx and Engel's view on the economy was that it is structured by the methods of production where a capitalist class exploits the working class and should be replaced by a system based on communal ownership and the equal distribution of resources. Marx and Engel's view on society was that it is divided into classes with conflicting interests where the ruling capitalist class oppresses the working class and that true social progress requires these class divisions to be removed. Marx and Engel's view on the state was that it allows for class oppression, maintaining the power of the bourgeoisie, and must be dismantled and replaced with a state that represents the working class majority. Marx and Engel's view on collectivism was that genuine social progress is achieved through collective ownership and control of the means of production, ensuring that resources are shared and used for the benefit of all individuals. Marx and Engel's view on common humanity was that humans are social beings whose nature is shaped by the material conditions of their society, and that true human potential can only be fully expressed under communism, where cooperation and solidarity are the guiding principles. Marx and Engel's view on equality was that true equality can only be achieved by overthrowing the capitalist system and creating a classless society where wealth and power are shared equally. Marx and Engel's view on social class was that the class struggle is the driving force of historical development, with the working class destined to overthrow the capitalist class and establish a society free from exploitation. Marx and Engel's view on workers' control was that workers should take control of the means of production and the state through revolutionary action, ensuring that both are democratically managed in the interest of the majority rather than a privileged few. Beatrice Webb was a socialist key thinker with the key theories of the inevitability of gradualness and the expansion of the state. Webb's theory of the inevitability of gradualness is the idea that socialism can be effectively achieved through a gradualist parliamentary strategy where social and economic reforms are implemented gradually to transform society without resorting to revolutionary change. Webb's theory of the expansion of the state is the idea that achieving socialism relies on the gradual expansion and strengthening of state functions and social policies, rather than the violent overthrow of the state, to achieve a more equal and organized society. Beatrice Webb's view on human nature was that humans are rational and social beings who could achieve their full potential through progressive social reforms and the development of a more organized and equal society. Webb's view on the economy was that it should be reformed through establishing a more efficient and humane system, implementing elements of both private enterprise and state intervention to address inequalities and ensure a fair distribution of resources. Webb's view on society was that it should evolve through gradual reforms, focusing on improving the living conditions and opportunities for the working class while maintaining social stability and cohesion. Webb's view on the state was that it should play an active role in regulating the economy, implementing social policies, and ensuring the welfare of all citizens, guided by expert knowledge and democracy. Webb's view on collectivism was that it should be implemented gradually using democracy, enhancing social welfare and cooperation without the immediate overthrowing the existing capitalist structures. Webb's view on common humanity was that the potential for human cooperation and solidarity can be realized through gradual reforms and social planning, which can help bridge the gap between different social classes. Webb's view on equality was that it can be progressively achieved through state intervention and social policies that aim to reduce inequalities and provide equal opportunities for all individuals. Webb's view on social class was that class divisions should be addressed through reforms that improve the social and economic conditions of the working class while acknowledging the need for a structured approach to achieving social justice. Webb's view on workers' control was that it should be introduced gradually through methods such as worker representation and collaboration with management, rather than through immediate or radical change, to ensure that workers have a voice in economic decisions while maintaining a stable economic system. Rosa Luxemburg was a socialist key thinker with the key theories of evolutionary socialism and revisionism and the struggle by the proletariat for reform and democracy. Luxemburg's theory of evolutionary socialism and revisionism is the achieving socialism through gradual reform, and revisionism is not practical because capitalism's economic relationship of exploitation requires a more radical revolutionary transformation to address its fundamental contradictions. Luxemburg's theory of the struggle by the proletariat for reform and democracy, that these struggles leads to class consciousness among workers, which is essential for mobilizing them to overthrow the capitalist society and state. Rosa Luxemburg's view on human nature was that individuals are inherently driven by class struggle and collective action, and their true potential can be realized through revolutionary change rather than gradual reform. Luxemburg's view on the economy was that it is exploitative under capitalism and cannot be reformed through gradual measures, but must be radically transformed through revolution to establish a system based on collective ownership and equal distribution. Luxemburg's view on society was that the working class is oppressed by the capitalist class, and real social progress requires the overthrow of these class divisions through revolutionary change. Luxemburg's view on the state was that it is an instrument of capitalist oppression, serving the interests of the bourgeoisie, and must be overthrown rather than reformed to achieve true socialism. Luxemburg's view on collectivism was that meaningful social progress requires capitalism to be overthrown and a system where resources are collectively managed to be established, rather than relying on gradual reforms. Luxemburg's view on common humanity was that human potential and cooperation are prevented by capitalism and can only be fully realized through revolutionary change that removes exploitation and allows for solidarity. Luxemburg's view on equality was that true equality cannot be achieved through reforms alone, but requires a radical transformation of the capitalist system to abolish class distinctions and establish a just society. Luxemburg's view on social class was that class struggle is central to historical development and that the working class must lead a revolutionary movement to remove the capitalist class and establish a society free from exploitation. Luxemburg's view on workers' control was that it can only be effectively realized through revolution, ensuring that production and government are democratically managed by the working class, rather than through gradual or reformist approaches. Anthony Crosland was a socialist key thinker with the key theories of the inherent contradiction in capitalism and state-managed capitalism. Anthony Crosland's theory of the inherent contradictions in capitalism is the idea that the internal conflicts of capitalism does not drive social change, and that managed capitalism can achieve social justice and equality without requiring a fundamental change of the system. Anthony Crosland's theory of state-managed capitalism advocates for a mixed economy where the state plays a key role in ensuring full employment and providing universal social benefits to remove the inequalities and inefficiencies of capitalism. Anthony Crosland's view on human nature was that individuals are pragmatic and capable of supporting gradual social reforms within a capitalist framework, believing that social progress can be achieved through state intervention rather than radical change. Crosland's view on the economy was that it should be managed through a mixed economy, where state intervention and regulation address the inequalities of capitalism, ensuring full employment and providing universal social benefits. Crosland's view on society was that it can be improved through reforms that remove class inequalities and promote social justice, without requiring the capitalist system being removed. Crosland's view on the state was that it should actively manage capitalism, ensuring stability and fairness through interventions such as public welfare and economic regulation to achieve social justice. Crosland's view on collectivism was that it is not necessarily about abolishing private ownership, but about managing capitalism through state intervention to balance economic inequalities and support collective welfare. Crosland's view on common humanity was that humans are capable of achieving social progress through pragmatic reforms in the existing capitalist system, recognizing the potential for cooperation and improvement without radical transformation. Crosland's view on equality was that it can be progressively achieved through state policies and reforms aimed at reducing inequalities in a managed capitalist framework, rather than through revolutionary change. Crosland's view on social class was that class divisions can be addressed through state-managed reforms that promote social mobility and equality without fundamentally changing the capitalist system. Crosland's view on workers' control was that it is more practical to focus on state regulation and intervention to improve workers' conditions and rights, rather than pursuing direct control of production by workers. Anthony Giddens is a socialist key thinker with the key theories of the rejection of state intervention and the role of the state. Anthony Giddens' theory of rejection of state intervention accepts the free market economy, prioritizing equality of opportunity over equality of outcome, and emphasizing responsibility and community values over class conflict. Anthony Giddens' theory of the role of the state is that it should focus on social investment in infrastructure and education to enhance opportunities and societal well-being, rather than engaging in direct economic and social change. Anthony Giddens' view on human nature is that individuals are adaptable and capable of thriving within a free market economy when given equal opportunities and supportive social structures. Giddens' view on the economy is that it should embrace the free market while ensuring that state interventions focus on social investment in infrastructure and education to provide opportunities rather than engaging in direct economic and social engineering. Giddens' view on society is that it should be organized to support personal responsibility and social cohesion, with a focus on promoting equality of opportunity rather than pursuing radical class-based changes. Giddens' view on the state is that it should play a role in investing in social infrastructure and education to improve societal well-being while avoiding excessive intervention in economic activities. Giddens' view on collectivism is that social progress is best achieved through a balance of free market dynamics and targeted state investment in key areas such as education and infrastructure, rather than through collective ownership of the means of production. Giddens' view on common humanity is that humans are inherently capable of cooperation and advancement when provided with equal opportunities and a supportive community framework rather than through class conflict. Giddens' view on equality is that it should focus on providing equal opportunities for all individuals rather than enforcing equality of outcome to enhance social mobility and personal responsibility. Giddens' view on social class is that class divisions can be addressed through policies that promote social investment and individual opportunities, rather than through systemic class struggle. Giddens' view on workers' control is that direct worker control of production is less practical than making use of state investment to create an environment where opportunities for all are enhanced while maintaining a free market system. Thank you for watching this video on UK politics and core political ideas. I'll see you in the next lesson.